heroes and there's legends. Heroes get remembered. Legends never die.
This is the Spoken Podcast.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
I'm your host, Lance Twidwell.
Man, that kid, he can ball, man. He can ball.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Patrick freaking Mahomes, baby!
Let's talk some sports, because that's what we're here to do.
You are tuned in to The Spoken.
It is the Spoken Podcast. I am your host, Lance Twidwell, here inside the Spoken Studios with my guy, Trevor Twidwell.
What's good?
God damn, it's good to be back, man. We have missed you guys. Episode 171 in full swing, full motion. We are so happy to be here. We have missed you guys. We can only hope that you guys have missed us, because it is really weird to not be doing the show on a weekly basis for us here. We've only missed 2 episodes, I believe, in the last 3 years. 2 weeks in the last 3 years. This is what we do, man. We're a little crazy on that end. I mean, even when there's slow periods of time in the sports world, the stuff that we pay attention to, like, let's say right now, we still like to give you guys content because we know what it's like to be out there, man, with not much to talk about. And we hope that we can ignite some conversation with you guys in regards to the Chiefs, in regards to the NBA, NFL, everything that we care about here, man, that we know that you guys care about. Because why would you be here if you didn't care about the things that we care about, and vice versa? Nevertheless, man, we are so glad you guys are here, whether you're YouTubing, whether you're live streaming, or whether you are podcasting. We appreciate each and every one of you guys. And speaking of the YouTube side of things, let's just get this out of the way right now. If you have not already done this, we would hope and pray that you guys would go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's the Spoken Podcast. You can find us on there. We post all of our content on that. We're trying to monetize this thing. We're trying to get some merch and things like that out there into existence for you guys, because I know you guys would enjoy that as well. So go ahead and subscribe to that. Let's get this thing rolling. We'd love for you guys to get there and enjoy the content on that as well. And we'd love to also hear from you guys. We want to be a lot more interactive, so let's make that possible. And speaking of merch, man, I got our guys Chief Concerns podcast over there on our guy Jason Dunn, Marcus Dash, and Eric Warfield, 2 former Chiefs, and a guy that knows everything he needs to know about sports. Our guy Marcus Dash, he's been on our show recently. Jason Dunn's been on several times, and of course Mr. Eric Warfield has been on our show before. All great dudes. They have great content. You guys need to follow their Twitter, follow their all their social media stuff. Marcus is extremely active on there. Jason Dunn is extremely active on there as well, guys. You can hit them up on Twitter at Concerned Chiefs. And hit up the links. If you guys follow me on Twitter at Lance the Spoken, you will see that I posted both links, because this isn't the only shirt they have. They have also a white retro style shirt. I told Marcus when I ordered this one that I felt more comfortable with this guy, because when I wear white, something is always bound to go down. I'm always going to end up getting ketchup on it, even when I'm not even around condiments within a 10-mile radius. I could be in the middle of the desert and get some ketchup on that shirt. I have the worst luck with white t-shirts. But if you want a white t-shirt, you guys can go and get that. So I recommend you guys go hit them up. Go get their shirts, very fairly priced. I think it was like $20. So go get one of their shirts, guys. We know that gas prices are inflamed, everything else is inflamed, but t-shirts, for whatever reason, are not inflamed right now. Inflammation has not hit the Chief Concerns podcast in their merch. But like I said, go hit them up. They're great guys. We love those guys, and we appreciate all their support. We got a great show for you guys coming up. We got a lot of Chiefs content to talk about, even though there's not a lot of new updated Chiefs related content out there. We always find a way to talk about it and give you guys something to talk about for a week at a time. We also have some NBA takeaways. We have some thoughts on that. We have our guy Pranav Sriraman coming on today, guys. He is a guy that I respect big time. He has been on Twitter for a long time. He's been following our work for a long time. He works for TWSN. He's a content creator there at TWSN. I'm really excited to get some of his viewpoints and takeaways, all things Chiefs, NBA, some things like that sprinkled in the mix, and to get his thoughts on all that stuff. This dude's a really good follow, and I respect him a lot. He's called me out on my shit a couple times about some things, and we can talk about that as well. But that's the beauty of talking sports, man, is that we all have fun doing those things. I want to start actually something that has actually nothing to do with football, but has everything to do with Kansas City. In case you guys missed it, Kansas City is now officially one of the 16 host city sites for the 2026 FIFA World fucking Cup.
It's insane, man.
Look, man, and it's so sad that our guy Eddie Ortiz isn't here today. He's actually out of town with his family. Because this would be the perfect show for Eddie for multiple reasons. For one, he was the only one of the 3 of us that actually picked the Warriors in the NBA Finals, so he could have done himself a little moonwalk and some celebrations. But also the fact that we all know that Eddie is the soccer guy here at the Spoken Podcast, and he doesn't get an opportunity to literally take off his shirt and try to do a backflip on live stream because of the fact that he's departed. But let me tell you guys that Eddie is as excited as he could ever be about this, and we share those sentiments, we share those emotions, those feelings, because I don't think people realize how big of a deal this is for our city and for this region as a whole. For one, the only city that's even close to Kansas City when it comes to host sites is Dallas. And Dallas is way down there in Texas. Everything else is on the coasts in Canada and in Mexico. The Kansas City literally stands alone in this region, and not only in just region, but as far as the region as you know, when you look at like radio, TV, ratings, things of that nature, population, Kansas City is nowhere near California, Texas, New York, Atlanta, Canada, Mexico. When it comes to those things, Kansas City, I think, is in the 30s when it comes to network, when it comes to what a city brings in. And so there's a reason why the Kansas City is getting this, and I think it's a lot of reasons. And we can break those reasons down, but this needs to be something that needs to be celebrated here in Kansas City because of the fact this is going to be such a big thing for this city moving forward. It isn't just the fact that they're getting the World Cup and it's going to bring all these people in here and it's going to change a lot of things, but it's also a revenue bombshell. Yeah. They're saying that Kansas City can make upwards of $500 million. I think it's around $480 million in revenue for this. And that is something that this city has never seen before. I mean, sure, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, they all bring in a lot of attention. We're talking about the World Cup. And as much as we in America love our NFL, because football is king here, as much as we love our sports, we're talking about soccer, which is the single most popular and played sports in the world. And it's coming here. Now, we consider this a city that prides itself on its soccer because we know that sporting has been successful here in Kansas City. We know that it has a loyal following, a cult following, if you will. We know that this city is a hub of sorts when it comes to MLS soccer because not only is Sporting a successful team, not only do we have the U.S. or the state-of-the-art facilities here that the U.S. team's more than likely going to inherit when they come down here for 2026 World Cup, but it's also a place where Lamar Hunt and Clark Hunt, who have been two pioneers for American soccer, have really established themselves here in Kansas City as one of those ambassadors, like I said, a family that represents the MLS, that helps start everything here in America. And it's been an uphill battle because soccer is still gaining popularity. It's still nowhere near the NFL, NBA, or MLB, not even the NHL, but it is gaining on those sports in America. And as these generations continue, we're going to see more and more of that, and Lamar Hunt and Clark Hunt are a large portion of that, and we should thank them for that. And I think that's a large reason why our city is getting this opportunity to host a big game. It's going to be at Arrowhead. I know there's going to be a lot of changes. I know that the new terminal, the airport's going to be working pretty soon. I think it's going to be by March of 2023, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. But this is everything this city need, guys, and I really hope, because I know there's a lot. Trevor and I were born and raised in Kansas City, so we know that this is a big city with a small town mindset, and that's not always a bad thing. But what I hope is that Kansas Cityans understand just how impactful this is going to be for this city, and how great this is going to be for this city, because it isn't just going to be for the downtown area. This is going to expand across the board for the entire metropolitan. It's going to benefit all of us, and I know. I get it. I'm a small town mind kind of guy myself. I love, small, charming towns, things of that nature. But this city has to grow. It has to expand. And this is something that's going to push it in that direction. And for the next 4 years, we need to be excited about what's going to take place because of this one single decision. I love seeing Mayor Quentin Lucas, all those guys out there celebrate. My boy Ryan Hood was the guy in the picture that was hugging Mayor Quentin Lucas out there while this was going down, when the announcement went down at Power and Light. I was out here at the house. I was doing my thing, and I saw it, and I'm telling you guys, I did about as close of a backflip as I possibly could without, crippling myself for life. But Trev, I just want to get your quick viewpoint, your quick thoughts on this, because I can't help but be excited about this. I wanted to start the show off with this because it's the biggest news I think Kansas City sports-wise has ever had. I don't think it's close.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people are going to realize how impactful this is until it actually happens. Just because, like you said, small town mindsets, a lot of the city is just not, we're not used to big events like this. I mean, we're kind of becoming used to that now with, the Chiefs winning a Super Bowl, the talks of hosting the Super Bowl or the talks of hosting, us getting the NFL draft. These things are kind of just, it's like a new wave of popularity that Kansas City's kind of finally starting to, generate. So the revenue alone is what's so attractive about this. What this could single-handedly change a whole lot, up for the city. And yeah, I mean, I was stoked on life, man, when I saw the news. So, yeah, not much more to add to what you said, but yeah, I think people need to prepare for the possible, impact that this is going to have and all the other things that can come afterwards. Maybe possibly hosting the Super Bowl, things like that. This is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, sporting event in the world. So something of that magnitude is it's surreal. I never thought Kansas City would be one of those cities to host that. So it's an honor to be honest. So. Yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm stoked.
Yeah, shout out to Hartzell, a legend here in Kansas City. He does like a lot of the PA stuff for sporting. I think he works for 810 now, but he's been a renaissance man here in Kansas City. He used to work for 96.5 The Buzz. Very talented individual, and I have a lot of respect for Hartzell. Something he said at the Power and Light thing when he was hosting it, I think with Nate Bucati, if I'm not mistaken, from 810. He said to the crowd, we went from undesirable to undeniable in Kansas City. Like those are powerful words, man. I think that's something that's how we need to view it. Like you said, the mindset needs to be changed here. We need to celebrate things like this because it is funny.
We're not just flyover country anymore.
Exactly. Like what I love about that is I remember growing up and hearing people say like, oh, nobody cares about the Chiefs, nobody cares about Kansas City. We don't get on the Sports Center highlights. We get jobbed in big games against bigger markets and bigger teams. And now we're one of those teams. We're one of those cities. We're one of those that people are like, oh, Kansas City. Because when you think of New York, you think of like Derek Jeter, and you think of the Knicks, and you think of these famous athletes and all these movies that are filmed there. You think of L.A., you think of LeBron, you think of Clayton Kershaw, you think of Magic Johnson, Kobe Bryant, Shaq. The list goes on and on and on. Kansas City's still not close to those markets, and they probably never will be because it's the middle of the map. But now you're getting an opportunity to say, oh, Kansas City, oh yeah, it's Patrick Mahomes, that's George Brett, oh my God, that's the barbecue capital of the world, the Spoken Podcast, the World Cup was hosted there, oh badass, oh they had the draft there. Like you're starting to get more acclimated with the rest of the country, and you become that much more relevant, which brings tourists, which brings revenue, which brings growth. And somebody who's as progressive as I am across the board, this is something I love, man. I just couldn't be more excited about it. I can keep talking about it, but I know why you guys are here, and I want to give you guys my viewpoints on other things. But I had to start the show for that. I thought it was absolutely necessary, and I hope that you guys are as excited as I am. Hopefully, you're even more excited than I am because it's a great thing for this city, and I hope you guys are ready for what's about to go down over the next 4 years. And hopefully, this show is still kicking ass, and we're here in 4 years breaking this thing down for you guys and talking about our viewpoints on what's going down. I'm just excited about the World Cup this year, let alone in 4 years. So hang tough, guys, because it's going to be a great time. But I wanted to get some Chiefs content in here, man, because I know this is something that we're fiending for right now. We're getting so ready. As soon as the NBA Finals was over, and I want to talk to Trevor about the NBA Finals, but as soon as the NBA Finals was over, I was sitting here and I started doing like the Dave Chappelle thing where he's like scratching his neck and shit looking for something because I am consumed by sports content. I love movies. I love TV shows. Trevor and I, we watch a lot of that stuff. We're always like, hey man, you should check this out. You should check this out. But at the end of the day, man, like there's nothing that beats live sports. That's what saves cable television to this day. Streaming services, if you notice, Amazon and Apple and all these other big streaming services are chomping at the bit at getting live sports because they know at the end of the day that's still king. Stranger Things couldn't touch the Super Bowl. As much as we love shows like that, This is what is king. And so we don't have that right now because baseball in Kansas City right now is rough to say the least. And baseball has become such a regionalized sport, it's hard to really sink your teeth into it on a consistent basis and really buy into what's going on. And baseball has their own problems as it is. So we're looking for football-related content, and we don't have that right now. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to alleviate some fear and also bring something refreshing to the table for Chiefs fans out there because I think it's very important that we understand what the Chiefs still have because I think the focus has been what the Chiefs have lost. Losing Tyreek Hill, losing Tyrann Mathieu, there's a lot of adjustment with that because those were two anchors on both sides of the ball for the Chiefs for the last 3 years at least. Now Tyreek's was here a lot longer than Tyron, but Tyron was a leader on this team. He was an All-Pro, and I believe he's a Chiefs Hall of Famer. Which, by the way, Tyron Matthew, shout out. Thank you for answering our question on GQ Sports. That was fucking amazing.
Yeah.
We didn't get to talk about it last week because we weren't here,
Yeah.
but that was awesome, and that was very humbling. And we appreciate our guy Tyron Matthew for doing that.
For sure.
But we lost some Titans here on this team, and I think that's been the focus. And Tyreek Hill's podcast and how he handled it and teased it didn't do us any favors either because that became the talking point and somewhat of a distraction here in Kansas City in regards to what Tyreek Hill meant to this team and how he's turning himself into a villain very quickly here in Kansas City, which really sucks. But I want to focus on something different because I feel like we've already given our thoughts and opinions on where Tyreek Hill stands on all these things and where he wants to take his career and his brand and things of that nature. I want to talk about Travis Kelce and Juju Smith-Schuster and why I want Chiefs fans to understand just how okay things are going to be here with those two guys and the other pieces around them. Why do I bring Juju Smith-Schuster up? Because I think that was the best acquisition the Chiefs made on the offensive side this offseason. I know a lot of people are excited about MVS because he's a galloper. He can, he has the potential to make the big, deep threat type of plays. I know that I'm big on the Rojo signing. I know that people lately are thinking that he may not make the team now that Jerick McKinnon made the team, and I want to talk about Jerick McKinnon, but I'm still high on Rojo. I think he's got a lot of opportunities here. He struggles with pass protection, things of that nature, but I don't think that he was focused on that in Tampa because they had a guy in Leonard Fournette that was specifically designed to do that. That's his skill set. And when he was in there in the pass pro, he would protect the quarterback. That wasn't really Rojo's assignment. I don't even think that's going to be Rojo's assignment here. But nevertheless, we all know what Travis Kelce here is in Kansas City. We all know how great he is. And I think there is this underlining fear that some people are having about what Travis Kelce will and can do without Tyreek Hill in the mix. So I ran the numbers a couple weeks ago, and I don't know if you guys saw it on Twitter, but I'm going to rehash some of this because...
Of course you did.
Yeah, me on Twitter. Imagine that. I want you guys to understand how great Travis Kelce is with or without Tyreek Hill in his career. So Travis Kelce has played 38 games without Tyreek Hill in his career because he was drafted 3 years before Tyreek, didn't play his rookie season with a knee injury, and then came in 2014 and hasn't missed a game due to any injury-related situations since. He's played 38 games without Tyreek Hill. In those 38 games, he had 178 receptions, which is 5 per game. He accumulated 2,239 receiving yards, which is around almost 60 yards per game, and had 12 total touchdowns. If you span those numbers over a 17-game schedule, Travis Kelce would have 85 receptions for 1,003 yards and 5 touchdowns. The most insane aspect of those numbers is that 34 of those 38 games were not just without Tyreek Hill, but they were also without Patrick Mahomes due to Travis Kelce having Alex Smith as his quarterback in 20-4 and 2015 before Tyreek was drafted in 2016. And in the 4 games that Travis Kelce has played without Tyreek Hill but had Patrick Mahomes as his quarterback, he averaged 6 receptions, 88 yards, and half a touchdown per game. So all of his numbers go up exponentially because I'll span it out for you. In a 17-game schedule, with those numbers, Travis Kelce would have 102 receptions for 1,496 yards and 9 touchdowns. That sounds more like the Travis Kelce of the last 4 years. Mm-hmm. In other words, Travis is and would be a Hall of Fame player with or without Tyreek Hill, despite what Tyreek Hill himself thinks or believes on his podcast when he was saying that he was opening up everything for Travis, which could be true. The dual threat of them helped each other out, but that's the point, is that Travis being the guy that sucked everybody up in the middle of the field helped Tyreek Hill get open 15, 20 yards downfield. That helped his game out as well. So it isn't like that Tyreek just helped Travis, because as we see, even before essentially having Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill was putting up numbers that Tony Gonzalez barely ever reached in his career. Think about it. I mean, 1,000 yards with or without Tyreek Hill every single season for 85 receptions and 5 touchdowns. 10, 15 years ago, that's the best season a tight end has. And again, Tony Gonzalez in his 17-year career only had 1,000 yards 4 times.
Yeah.
So Travis Kelce would average 1,000 yards with or without Tyreek Hill as his teammate. And I brought up Juju Smith-Schuster And why I think he's going to work is because for me, I think it's getting slept on. I don't think the Juju Smith-Schuster signing is getting enough attention because I know the excitement of Sky Moore. I know MVS again. I know that. I know everyone's
because
focused.
we've made so many moves. We had so many picks.
Yeah, and I know McCole Hardman obviously being the guy that's going into year 4 now.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's something we're paying attention to because this could potentially be his last season with the Chiefs, and we want to see what he's going to do in a contract year. But Juju is the guy I'm focusing on because here's the reason why. In 4 of his 5 seasons with the Pittsburgh Steelers, he played in at least 12 games, and in those seasons, he averaged 77 receptions for 932 yards and 7 touchdowns. That was with Ben Roethlisberger at an advanced stage of his career,
right?
And backups like Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges. He has Patrick Mahomes now. That's the obvious of this all. And I will address the obviousness of all this. Juju isn't even close to Tyreek Hill. Tyreek is one of the 2-3 best wide receivers in football today. But I think Juju can be an insanely efficient and effective wide receiver 1 in this Chiefs offense. And I'll say why. I'll tell you why. In his 2 seasons where he played in all 16 games, it was in 2018 and 2020, it's before the 17-game schedule, Juju averaged 104 receptions for 1,129 yards and 8 touchdowns. And again, that was with a way beyond his prime Ben Roethlisberger. And in 4 seasons with Patrick Mahomes as his quarterback, Tyreek Hill averaged 86 receptions for 1,214 yards and 11 touchdowns. You see how those numbers are very comparable? This is not trying to draw comparisons between Tyreek and Juju as individuals because, again, Tyreek is clearly the superior wide receiver. I'm contextualizing the potential of what Juju can be in this offense with the best quarterback in football and how I believe he can and will be the reliable threat for Patrick this season, seeing he was that for a quarterback in Roethlisberger that was at the tail end of his career. And those numbers are undeniable because we know that the Steelers are a team that loved to run the ball. They ran the ball plenty. It was about a 50-50, 60-40 draw for the majority of Juju's time in that. And Juju was playing second fiddle to Antonio Brown for a few of those years. Yeah. So I really hope that people will look at this replacement because that's what Juju is the replacement for Tyreek Hill. And I know that you got to have kind of like a battalion of guys to kind of justify the trade. But Juju to me is the centerpiece. I'm not as big on MVS. I think he can, add some color to this offense. I think he can add some, downfield threats and things of that nature. But I need somebody who's going to take the pressure off Travis Kelce. And if I'm looking at anybody on this current roster, and I'm a big McCole guy, I think Juju is going to be that guy, though. And I think he's going to be the one that puts up, like we all talk about who's going to be the 1,000-yard receivers on this team. I think if anybody's got the best shot, it's going to be Juju because I think he's going to get the primary targets. I think McColl's going to be extremely effective in this offense, but I think he's going to be used in the same ways that he has been in the past, where he gets a lot of like bubble screens, quick tosses, jet sweeps, stuff like that.
Jet sweeps, yeah.
Juju's going to be the guy that's going out there getting 10, 15-yard plays with Travis Kelce. It takes the top off the defense as well because he's multi-versated. He's got stuff to his game. He's not just a possessions receiver.
He can run the route tree, man.
And he's got an opportunity to prove himself because he's on a 1-year deal. So that's where I'm at on Juju. Do you agree with me on that, Trevor? Do you see it the same way?
It's been that for me. I mean, when we were talking about the free agency, when that was all in the mix of everything, and Amari Cooper became available. Obviously, we all wanted Amari, but when Juju was always right up there with Amari for the guy that we wanted and we thought was the best fit. And I still think Juju is the best fit. I think Amari was just that guy that would have been a cherry on top kind of guy to replace Tyreek. But Juju is a perfect fit because the guy can run the route tree. He's physical. He's strong. He's quick. And he can throw some blocks. He's kind of a do-it-all guy. It's just, we need him to stay healthy. That's the main thing. But we do have a plethora of options this year. There's so many different moves in all these draft picks that we had this season. People just kind of get lost in the sauce of all the moves and all the new names. So it's easy to kind of forget the impact that Juju is looking to have here this season. And I think he's going to be majorly impactful. I think he's going to have a big year, maybe the best year of his career. I think he had 1,200-yard season. I think that was his rookie or his second year. I can't remember which one it was in Pittsburgh, but he had that big year.
1,400 yards, 90. So I think it was 1,426 in 2018.
Was it? Okay. Yeah, I think that was his second year.
Second year in the league. He's been in the league since 2017.
Okay. Yeah, I remember he had that big year, and I was like, man, if that's kind of when he burst onto the scene. I remember everybody in fantasy was loving Juju.
Yeah, his career high in receptions is that year, and he had 111, which was exactly the same as what Tyreek's career high is, 111 last year.
Yeah, so I mean, I can definitely see him getting the volume and a ton of work this year. If he stays healthy throughout the year and plays every game, and I think the guy's number is going to be wild this year. So I definitely am right there with you. I do think he is the guy everyone's kind of like forgetting about, because I think he's just coming to work and everyone knows who he is, and he's not getting like the big reports out of camp really, just because I think he's just one of those lunch pail guys that's going to go in there and just do his job. And all these younger guys are kind of getting in MVS or kind of get like the highlight plays and things like that. But I think Juju night in, night out, game in, game out is going to be that guy that's so reliable. And I love the tough grittiness that he always has and portrays, and that personality he has. You can like the TikTok stuff all you want. I'm not big on that, but I think he does have a good personality though for a locker room. I really do. I think he's a bubbly kind of personality. I think he's a nice little change for this locker room for sure to add to the guys that we have in place right now. And that's another thing too, is just the morale thing and how his connection with Mahomes so far and everything's been pretty seamless. So that's important as well. But I do think he is going to be the number one guy this year. I think he's going to lead this team. He's gonna be right up there with Travis Kelce leading this team in targets this season. I think he's going to get a funnel of targets, and I think he's going to have like I said, I think that he has a good chance of having a career year this year. I know that's saying a lot because he had that 1,400-yard year, but maybe not 1,400 yards, but I think he's going to rack up a good amount of touchdowns. I think we can use him in a lot of different ways, too. I think he can be used in jet sweeps, too, in certain running. I think Andy Reid's going to have all kinds of – because Andy Reid is Andy Reid's guy. He's wanted him for the last couple seasons. This like we've mentioned on the show before, this is a guy that Andy Reid sent the picture of the Super Bowl trophy to, the Lamar. So, I mean, yeah. The Lombardi Trophy too. So I think this is a guy that Andy Reid is chomping at the bit to get out there and use in different aspects.
Well, and something that Seth Kaiser said on our last episode 170 that stuck with me is that the Chiefs, according to what Seth thinks and believes, they are a team that believes in the film that guys give them years before. They think that they can still access that guy. That's why Frank Clark's still on the team. They think that they can get 2018 Frank Clark still at this point, which I don't believe, but I think that the Chiefs still use that same principle, if in fact that is true with Juju Smith-Schuster from the 2018 season as well for him, ironically. Yeah. Is I think they look at it and they said, look what the Steelers did with him in that season, and we can replicate that. We can give him the same opportunities, because that was still with Antonio Brown at the helm.
And then right after Antonio Brown, they added Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool,
right.
Two guys that demanded the ball
Juju
as well.
So Juju constantly had to fight.
And he was banged up a couple of those seasons.
to get those opportunities. And I think that after last season, when he realized when he hurt his arm and he wasn't getting the production that he was hoping for as the primary target, I think he realized, like, I need to go to Kansas City where they know they want me, they value me, and I can be a true key cog to the equation there. And because we know, man, this team is going to be throwing all the time. No matter who Patrick Mahomes has at wide receiver, at tight end, this is always going to be a pass-first offense. They're not going to be the Ravens. They're not going to be one of these teams like the Browns that are going to be running the ball constantly. Even if the Chiefs have a Kareem Hunt, you saw the way they utilized Kareem. They utilized Kareem in the pass game a lot, which is why I was very excited to hear that the Chiefs re-signed Jerick McKinnon.
Yes.
Because of the fact that although this guy, I'll say this. I've seen a lot of Chiefs fans and content providers out there that I respect that are looking at Jerick McKinnon as a camp body, as someone that they're bringing in just to see if he can make the team. I'm going to tell you guys right now, I think Jerick McKinnon is a lock.
This is not Darwin Thompson.
I'll come in here right now because I think the Chiefs realize that what this guy brings to them, and I think he's not a camp body. He's a playoff body. How do I know that? Why do I believe that? Well, look at what happened last season when the Chiefs signed Jerick McKinnon. He had a grand total of 12 rushes and 62 yards with 0 rushing touchdowns, 13 receptions for 107 yards and 1 touchdown in the regular season. Started 0 games, played in 13 of them. But in playoffs, he started all 3 games. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was still a little banged up and things of that nature, but he got hot. He had 34 rushes for 154 yards, which is 4.5 yards a carry, which is very good. And then he had 14 receptions for 165 yards and a touchdown. So he had more rushes and receptions in 3 playoff games than he had all of the regular season. And he came alive. You saw how pivotal he was in that Steelers game and then, quite frankly, in that Bills game. Him and Clyde Edwards-Helaire were balling in that game. And he was a key contributor in those games, which is why it was upsetting when Patrick threw that ball, that quick slant to Tyreek Hill in the end of the first half against the Bengals in the AFC Championship. McKinnon had a lane that was 8 miles wide. Yeah, he could have walked right in there, and he had the hot hand. I love this, and quite frankly, I'm glad the Chiefs did it because I think they realized that although they are comfortable with what they had in Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Ronald Jones, and they went and got Pacheco out of the draft, I still think they realized that, look, McKinnon, when given opportunity, shined in this offense. And if he can stay healthy, which has been something a bit of a concern for him in his career, and now he's at the age of 30, I think they're realizing, like, we're going to utilize him in the spots that we give him. We're going to give him opportunities to play in big games, big opportunities, because he didn't, as you can clearly see, when the lights were shining brightest, this dude performed. And given the fact that this offensive line is going to have even more cohesion between them, because another season of all these guys together, because they were all jumbled together. Not one single guy on the Chiefs offensive line last year, the starters, played together before last season. Now they have that camaraderie. We're going to see Orlando Brown Jr. back with an extension. Yes, that's going to happen. You're going to see these guys, Creed Humphrey and Trey Pancake Papa Smith, Darian Kennard, I'm calling it now, he's going to be our right tackle one. These young bucks are going to have all that motivation because they all love to run block. Every single one of them, even Joe Thuney included, love to run block because up in New England, they ran the ball a fuck ton. Yeah. And so this is going to be one of those opportunities for guys like Clyde, guys like Ronald Jones, and McKinnon to make this team, which I believe all three of these guys will make the team, to get an opportunity to really show what they are worth this season. Because again, Jerick McKinnon's on a 1-year deal. Rojo's on a 1-year deal. Pacheco's a rookie that may not even make the team, but will be on the practice squad. And Clyde, the Chiefs have a lot of opportunities to exercise him and not give him his fifth year option next year or in a couple years. There's a lot of opportunity for these running backs to make their name here. And I think for guys like McKinnon, the reason I'm excited about it is that he's going to add that versatility again in the pass game because he was so effective. He was far more effective in catching the ball out of the backfield than he was running the ball out of the backfield.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think he falls right back into the role he was in because last year we had Darrell Williams. Darrell Williams is now our Rojo. Rojo's filling that role right now. So I think he falls right back into the role he was playing. He's great depth. He's a great emergency spot start guy. He's shown that he's capable of stepping in and starting right away. So I've been a McKinnon fan for a long time before he was ever a Chief, and I was stoked. I remember when we first talked about him being signed on the show that day. I was stoked because I've always liked him when he was with the Vikings, the Niners, and he's dealt with injuries throughout his year, but he's an incredible athlete for his size. His ability to make guys miss and his ability in the passing game is ideal for an Andy Reid offense. And he ate when he had his chance to get out there and play. So he's a good guy to have third in line in the rotation. Clyde's not guaranteed healthy all year. Rojo could have nicks, who knows? Running backs get banged up. So having a guy, a deadly weapon like that's shown he can be step up in not only regular season games but playoff games and score touchdowns and produce at a high level. That's important. That's key. Finding guys like Damian Williams and that's Andy Reid. That's his forte. That's what he does. He finds guys like that can produce and check the playing the X's and O's for his kind of scheme that he wants, and he finds guys that fit in those roles. So. I think McKinnon's nothing less than that. I think he's a stud, and I've always liked his game. So yes, I felt like it was a no-brainer. I honestly didn't think we were going to bring him back because it's how long it took. I figured if we we're going to bring him back, we would have done it fairly quickly. But that Pacheco kid's been getting a lot of traction too, and getting a lot of praise. I like him a lot. Watching his film, the kid runs angry. He's fast and he's very agile. But he may not be, game time ready. He might be a guy that's going to be on the practice squad for a little bit. Maybe in the next couple of years, he could be something that a fun developing story. But for right now, I love bringing McKinnon back, man, for sure.
Yeah, it's a great move. There's no negatives to it because, again, the Chiefs aren't spending any real money on him. And the fact is, this guy, I had a feeling. I don't want to sit here and say I knew he was going to make the team, but I kind of had an inkling that it was gonna happen because the man was at Patrick Mahomes' wedding. Like I just have a hard time believing that you were with the Chiefs for one season and you're with Patrick Mahomes at his wedding in Hawaii. I have a hard time believing that you're not going to be back on the team. I know that sounds kind of strange.
You know he wanted to be back
But
here.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think he realized, like, look, I'm at the tail end of my career. I'm not young. I've had a lot of injuries in my career. I'm not going to probably make a team that's going to have an opportunity to win a Super Bowl outside of the Chiefs because I fit this offense seamlessly and they like me. So on his end, it made total sense. And, again, it's not going to be him carrying the load because there are two guys on this offense, in my opinion, they're going to get the bulk of the carries, the bulk of the snaps. He is a guy, again, to me, that is looked at as like a marksman. Somebody that, hey, we need you here, man, in this moment, in this crunch time. Hey, the playoffs are coming up. We need to get you in rhythm because we know in these big games we can rely on you.
It's like a Damian Williams, that's what I'm saying. Like those kind of guys.
Like, honestly, like right now, as it currently stands, as crazy as this sounds, I think if you were to rank the running backs the Chiefs had, of the veteran guys, not Pacheco included because we don't know what he'll become.
Yeah.
But and I want to give Derek Gore, my guy, I love him to death, but I want to give him.
I forgot about
I want to give
Derek
Derek Gore credit.
Yeah,
He'll probably make the practice squad, or maybe if somebody gets injured in training camp, maybe he will make the roster because I really like Derek Gore.
Yes.
But if I was to rank of these three guys when it comes to Clyde, Rojo, and McKinnon, I would start with Clyde. And then Rojo, but it's like really close because I think Rojo's got a lot of upside and probably
how I feel about Rojo.
Yeah, you may even put him at the top, but I'm gonna give
one.
Clyde some because I know what he is in this offense. We don't know for sure what Rojo will be yet, so I'm gonna say Clyde, Rojo, and then McKinnon. But if I was to sit here and say who am I most confident in a playoff game, McKinnon, Clyde, Rojo. McKinnon jumps two guys in my eyes when it comes to when the games matter most.
When he's got more experience in all
reliability,
those
yes,
guys too.
and effectiveness.
Yeah.
He was one of the best players on the field in that Steelers and Bills game.
Mm-hmm.
He was incredible in those
He's
games.
Electric, man.
Yes. So I want to see him get all the shine, all the opportunity he can, and I think the Chiefs are going to utilize him a lot like they did last season, where you don't see a lot of him earlier in the season, and they kind of work him gradually into the offense again, and then in the playoffs. Yes,
this might be the
Chiefs will be in
deepest.
the
This might be the
playoffs.
deepest running back depth we've had, like as far as talent goes. I know when we had, I kind of hinted that when we had Le'Veon Bell, but Le'Veon Bell was completely washed. I had high expectations for him, but he was completely washed. And having LaShawn McCoy and guys like that, those were just dead bodies on our roster, to be honest. So these young guys, we know that all these guys can perform. The Rojo signing for me was the most exciting one because I think he's going to lead this team in rush attempts. But yeah. This is a good problem to have, man, in the running back room, because running backs are so expendable. These guys can go down at any second. You need depth at that position, especially in this offense. You need guys that can are kind of hybrid players, and we have all of our guys in this roster are hybrid players. We know Rojo can catch the ball. We know all these guys can tote the rock for 4.5 to 5 yards of carry if they really put it. And this O-line's performing well, so it's a good problem to have, man. We have a healthy crew of guys that are ready to run this rock, so I'm excited about it.
Well, and then we hear, we know that the Chiefs' defensive line in particular needs help. I still don't really know what the Chiefs are doing in that realm. Seth Kaiser said it himself when he was on the show that he's fearful that the Chiefs still view Frank Clark as the guy they traded for back in 2018. Where he's this 13-sack kind of guy. Now, if that ends up becoming the case, then we understand what the Chiefs are doing all along. And like I said in a nice little rant that I had a few weeks ago, if in fact that is what happens and George Karlaftis has one of the best rookie seasons from an edge rusher, then Brett Veach is even more of a genius than I gave him credit for.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case. I don't think you're going to get Frank Clark of 5 years ago. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that George Karlaftis is going to have this breakout, humongous rookie season. Do I think Karlaftis is going to be good? Yeah. I'm big on the kid. I think he's got what it takes. He's got all the work ethic and all the important stuff down. But it's going to take him time because this is the NFL. He's facing grown men, not college players, grown men. So it's going to be a challenge for him to start his career. All the greats, man, outside of, I think Reggie White, every guy out there, even TJ Watt, maybe the best pass rusher in the game today, had 7 sacks his rookie season. That's how it goes. And so I don't really know what the Chiefs are doing here, but there is an opportunity out there for the Chiefs to go and get a veteran player, and that is Robert Quinn from the Bears. Now, let me preface this by saying that, and I posted this on our Facebook page and Twitter pages, that this isn't an ideal fit when it comes to normalcy. Like in a normal offseason, when the Chiefs are like, hey, we're in the market for this guy or this guy, Robert Quinn's not one of the top guys on there. Not based on production, but age and
contract.
contract. So he's got Supposedly he's upset about his contract with the Bears. I think he's just trying to get traded out of the Bears because he knows they're going to be terrible, and he's at that time of his career where he's like, I only got maybe a couple years left.
Rebuild team.
I want to win. Yeah, he's never really won in his career. He started with the St. Louis Rams when they were the St. Louis Rams in 2011. He's 32 this season. He's got 3 years, $40 million left on his deal. And I don't really think, again, that's bothering him. I think he's happy with that contract overall. I'm sure he would take more, but he would be willing to play for that. I think he wants to be on a contender. And the Chiefs make so much sense. For one, we know that Ryan Poole, their new GM, is from the Chiefs. He was Brett Veach's right-hand man.
Yeah. He's
now their GM over there. There's a relationship there. Matt Nagy, coach for the Bears. There's still a relationship there as well. I think it makes a lot of sense, especially when you're switching conferences. You're not going to keep him in your conference or division, anything like that. For the Chiefs side of things, it's simple. They don't have anybody else to really rely on right now that's at Robert Quinn's level even to this point of his career. Because here's the thing. Robert Quinn, in his career, has 5 seasons of double-digit sacks. That's more than Chris Jones and Frank Clark combined. So they have 3 combined.
Yeah.
And those are your 2 premier pass rushers going into this season. That's concerning. Not to mention you have on the other side of Frank Clark, who's already a major concern, a rookie in Karlaftis. And here's the other thing. Even though Robert Quinn is older, this dude has been extremely versatile. So for the last 5 seasons, he's only missed 5 games. And I don't even know if all those were due to like injuries, or maybe he just had like a game where they didn't need him to play because they had a playoff situation going down. Like, I don't know. He played with the Rams in 2017, and in that season, he missed a couple starts. That could have been very well because of the fact that the 2017 Rams were really good.
Yeah.
How about this? The fact that last season, even at 31 years old, Robert Quinn had 18.5 sacks. So even if you were to cut those numbers in half and he only has 9.5, that would probably lead this team.
Yeah.
So I think the Chiefs need to really consider trying to trade for him if they haven't already. I think that you need to consider giving him a 3rd or a 4th round pick for Robert Quinn, because at this point in time, man, you can't waste seasons of Patrick Mahomes. And if you don't have a good pass rush before this offseason and it's only gotten worse, I don't see how you don't make this move. I think the Chiefs need to make this move just based off of sheer desperation.
You think they need to, but do you think they will?
That's the point.
Yeah.
I don't know if they will.
I mean, based on the energy that I've been getting off of them, I think they're content with what they have right now. Because I know JPP is still out there. There's not many other names, though, outside of those guys. I mean, pretty much everyone's been picked up at this point. And I mean, Quinn's obviously still a rostered player on that Bears team, so getting him here we would need to pay the man fairly handsomely, and hopefully expecting him to perform. But I mean, we were all on board for bringing Melvin Ingram back, and obviously he would have been on the cheap, which he was fairly cheap even going to Miami. But he immediately was our best edge rusher when he came into the roster last season. So I mean, I can only imagine what Robert Quinn would be to this defense and what he would mean to this defensive line and the edge. So I'm all on board with guys like that. I mean, I've been wanting to, when we went to the draft, I wanted to take, with our first two of our first 3 picks, I wanted to get edge players. We didn't go that route, but I really wanted to overload on that, and we haven't. I think we feel content with the guys that we have on this roster right now. And then with Loftus being the rookie, I think there's high hopes for him to be a day 1 starter and be a very reliable contributor. That has to be the confidence in him. Otherwise, we would not be relying on him to be a starter and having all that the confidence in him to be there opposite Frank Clark. So I'm willing to bring in anybody who's willing to come here and try to contribute to this defensive line. If I'm being honest, on this edge, bringing in any veteran. I mean, but like I said, like the names are dwindling. There's not really any free agents really out there. We'd have to probably I mean, there's always guys that we can bring after camp is over. There's always camp bodies that don't make it on other teams. There's cuts. There's things like that people can end up flying under the radar, and we could pick one of these guys up to come out and try to contribute as well. But having a guy that has the resume like a Quinn with 18 sack years and things like that, and being a part of good defenses in LA and in Chicago, that's a guy that knows the game and has had a strong bill of health that could be relied on here. So Yes, I'm desperate, man. I feel desperate. I mean, the Chiefs are playing it cool right now. They must have confidence that we don't know about yet, that we haven't tapped into yet. But they might know things we don't know. They might see things we don't see yet. But which is fine. Hopefully they're right. They're right more about things than we are most of the time. But just to ease my anxiety a little bit about my nervousness about this edge. Secondary seems to be in great shape. We have a bunch of bodies and a bunch of young. Viable guys back there right now, but we definitely need to get after the quarterback, and that was our biggest weakness last year, was finishing plays against the quarterback and getting sacks, and it seems right now that would be worse. That can definitely change quickly by watching a couple games, but I would like us to bring in a couple other veterans or a couple other names to side us.
I don't know if you did or not, but you brought up about JPP.
Yeah.
I mean, that he's available.
Yes.
He's the same age as Robert Quinn.
Yeah.
So at this point, you're not going to get a 26-year-old phenom. You're not going to go and get one of these top-tier guys. We're in June, man. We're in the middle of June. So now it's slim pickings time, and I fault only the Chiefs for that. Now, to the defense that Seth Kaiser brought up also in our last episode, I don't think the Chiefs were anticipating not having Tyreek Hill, so they weren't really focusing on some of these other avenues. They didn't think about having to spend money. They weren't, focused on some of these things. I think that changed and altered their offseason. And I don't think they were going into this season looking at edge rush and things of that nature for whatever reason. And now they have to. And I think that either JPP or Robert Quinn should be on this team this next season. I think it needs to happen. The Chiefs have the cap space, and they'll actually have even more cap space once they get this Orlando Brown Jr. extension done, which I am very confident will happen. I know Pete Sweeney from Arrowhead Pride feels different, but from everything I've heard, man, and even from Orlando Brown himself, he knows the assignment here. He knows that the Chiefs aren't trying to go into this season without a starting left tackle, especially a guy that I consider a top 10 left tackle in this league. I think that they know that they have to get this done, because I don't think Orlando Brown's going to play under the tag. I think he's going to play hardball here, man, because he knows his worth. He knows he's worth more than $16.6 million.
He has his agent now, right? I mean, things should be moving swiftly here soon. I would expect this to be done within the next couple weeks, hopefully.
And you can criticize how or why he hired this Delta Sports Group agent. I think Michael Portner was his name. You can criticize that, and it's fair, because it's a rookie, if you will, agent. I get that. But if Orlando Brown's comfortable and realizes, like Seth Kaiser also made the comparison, or said that what may have happened is the Chiefs presented Orlando Brown Jr. a contract and said, hey, you go feed this out to the multitude, see which one of these agents wants to work with you on that, and then we'll move forward. I think that's what happened too. Because I don't think the Chiefs are sitting here in June going, all right, man, we got a month until we can get that July 15th deadline done. All right, let's just give it to him in 3 weeks. No, I really believe the Chiefs have been offering. I think they knew what their offer was going to be once they traded for him, because they had a deal in place for Trent Williams when they tried trading for him with the 49ers.
It's a new ballpark what he would possibly be getting.
Right. So I think that's what's going to happen. I think you're going to see that happen, and even more money will be available. So the Chiefs what I'm trying to say is the Chiefs will have money to go and snag a couple of veteran free agents if they really want to go get them, or trade for a guy like Robert Quinn. I think that they need to pay attention to JPP and Robert Quinn severely, because this defense has got to get better up front. But something I really do like, and hopefully we'll be hearing from our guy Pranav in the next few minutes or so. But in the meantime, I do want to talk about what we're hearing from mandatory mini camps. Now, obviously, this is the time of the year where everyone's I'm in the best shape of my life. You hear all the cliches, and these guys are staying out late, working their butts off, first one in, last one out, stuff like that. So I know that there's always going to be those eye-rolling kind of comments that you're going to hear in the cliches rolling out, but I'm really excited about this one, is the fact that we're hearing some incredible reports about Brian Cook. According to many reports, and I'm going to give my guy Charles Goldman a lot of credit here, from Chiefs Wire, according to what he's hearing and what he's seeing, Brian Cook is flashed in a big way at minicamp and OTAs, because this is the time where you're starting to really gear up for training camp. According to what they're saying, Brian Cook in practices has had 2 interceptions, one against Patrick Mahomes and had another one that he actually dropped. It was against Chad Henne. He was thrown to Cornell Powell. And this is a report from Arrowhead Pride's Pete Sweeney. But the point is, it isn't just the interception totals and things of that nature, because we know how much that matters when Patrick Mahomes throws a shit ton in training camp and then ends up throwing less than double digits in the regular season on a normal basis. Yeah. It's the fact that it's telling me that Brian Cook is picking up on this defense quickly. And this dude is such a physical freak, like we've talked about.
Instincts,
He's
yeah.
got almost the exact same build as Micah Parsons. They are built almost identically the same. Arm length, height, weight, everything. So this dude is out here in our secondary playing at this level and learning it this quickly. Like, I get that McDuffie and Karlaftis and these other guys, even Leo Chenal, are getting all this attention because these dudes are supposed to be studs.
Yeah.
Brian Cook could be that one like hidden gem in this defense that we're not even like focused on as much. That's like, holy shit, this dude's just rocking dudes, picking dudes off, playing 3 different positions. Like, he could be that piece.
Blitz packages.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't help but get excited when I heard this because of the fact that although I am such a fan of Brian Cook, the athlete, I'm slower to giving him a bunch of flowers as a football player yet because I want to see what he can do on the field at the highest level. If he can do it early often, man, that's going to take a lot of pressure and a lot of, like you said, anxiety away from the pass rush. Because I think what the Chiefs are going to do, this is just a theory I had, and I've heard other people talk about it as well, I think the Chiefs are going to try to convert Leo Chenal to an outside linebacker.
Yeah.
I think that's what they're going to try to do because
possible.
he's much better at getting to the quarterback than he is pass protecting. And it's so much so that our guy Jay Binkley from 6'10 actually brought this little nugget out I didn't even realize. Do you know that obviously TJ Watt and Leo Chenal went to the same school, which is Wisconsin?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that Leo Chenal graded better as a pass rusher than TJ Watt at Wisconsin?
I didn't know that.
That's freaking wild, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to sit here and say this dude's going to turn into TJ Watt because no one is TJ Watt.
Yeah.
That's why TJ Watt is
People
TJ
slept
Watt.
on TJ Watt, though, in the draft.
But Leo Chenal, he was a 30th overall
Yeah,
pick.
yeah.
Like, he's the exception to the rule about when we talking about getting pass rushers early in the draft.
Right.
Leo Chenal could be that guy. He could be an extra, and that's why I think it's important to go get a Robert Quinn or a JPP, one of these veteran guys,
Absolutely.
to add to the equation that you can start day one, and then guys like Leo Chenal and Brian Cook can just fit their way into the defense. That, to me, that's ideal. You want to build around. This is why I said I'm bigger on sure things, not what ifs. What ifs can work, but I want sure things. And Robert Quinn and a JPP are sure things. And then guys like Leo Chenal and Brian Cook and McDuffie and Karlaftis can all become sure things. Because the pressure, the pressure isn't on them to start day one and become the guy day one. Now, I do believe McDuffie and Karlaftis will start day one. I think just based on their draft value, where the Chiefs took them, what positions of need they're playing, they're going to be day one starters. So that's already out of my mind. But I'm looking at Leo Chenal and Brian Cook and guys like that around Justin Reed and these other guys in the backfield. How effective can they be, and how will they be at their highest level of effectiveness? And I think guys like Leo Chenal can be converted into that, but Brian Cook can be that wild card, free safety, hard hitting motherfucker in the middle of the field that's like an extended linebacker, basically. I am so excited about this guy. I don't know if you'd heard these reports or not, but I wanted to put that out there in the atmosphere now in the middle of June, because if Brian Cook pops this season, we at the Spoken Podcast aren't going to be shocked, because according to Charles Goldman, Pete Sweeney, guys like that, they're seeing it. Therefore, we need to see it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching Brian Cook's tape when we drafted him, because I didn't know much about him, to be honest. I was watching, highlight reels, and I was watching, segments of games, and the guy's instincts are wild, man. The dude, and the way he hits, that's what I'm saying. Him and Justin Reed, too, I think could be a massive duo back there. Like, those two safeties out there playing, because both those guys know how to lay the wood. Both those guys know how to let people know that they're there, they're present, and they have great instincts. I definitely think this rotation of these guys, man, I don't know who's all going to be these starters. I know Juan Thornhill is still very much here. He's still got things to prove as well. Staying healthy is one of those things. So I think having depth with guys like Brian Cook, I think, is a very good thing to have if you're a football team trying to better your defense. And that's what we are right now, especially our secondary. We've lost Trevarius Ward, we've lost some other guys. We still have L'Jarius Sneed, we still have and Brian Cook is one of those guys I think is going to go out there and make plays. I think McDuffie is going to be one of those guys that's there making plays as well. Similar to how Marcus Peters was. He's another one of those ball hawk kind of guys. Is really good at, has the ball skills to get those picks. He's very more agile. But guys like Brian Cook and Justin Reed, those guys know how to crack, man. Those guys know how to, when they hit you. No offense to Tyrann Mathieu, I love him, but he took a lot of tackles off. As far as like actually just sacrificing his body and putting himself into another individual. These guys are laying their shoulder into these guys' chests and taking people out, and that's what you want from your safety duo and guys like that. So I've been hearing the reports out of camp about him not only having ball skills, but actually being out there and able to look like he's going to make plays, and that's that's what you want, man. That's exciting. It's better than any kind of negative thing about him getting burnt or whiffing on tackles and dropping way too many interception chances and things like that. He's out there in position at the right place at the right time. And granted, Patrick Mahomes is going to throw more picks during camp. That's always a report coming out of camp. Like you said, there's always people talking about, he's throwing a lot of picks in camp. You guys understand they're working out new plays. He's got a bunch of new players. This is how it is, man. So, I could be more excited for a lot of these. Like I said, I was all for the youth movement on this defense and this secondary. I love having all these young guys out there. They're chomping at the bit to get on that gridiron and play football, especially for Andy Reid and to play on the other side of Patrick Mahomes to help bring another championship here. And I think Brian Cook is one of those guys that's going to be a glue guy for at least a handful of years, and I'm excited to see what he can do and bring, and the aggressiveness that him and guys like Leo Chenal can bring. Having two young, and then obviously don't forget about Nick Bolton. I mean, my guy Nick Bolton is going to lead the way with those linebackers there. Him and Chenal are going to be all those guys, man. All these guys are so aggressive, and I love it. We've been missing that. That's what I feel like these guys are going to bring to, and Justin Reid as well is a very aggressive guy. I remember him laying out Tyreek Hill a couple years ago, man. He gave Tyreek Hill one of the worst hits of his career. So these guys know how to hit. These guys know how to finish plays. These guys know how to punish people. And that's, I think, what we've really been missing in this defense. I'm excited for it, man.
Yeah, and I want to keep an optimistic viewpoint on all this because I think that this defense is significantly more talented than it was just a year ago. Because to your point, Tyrann Mathieu, although I loved him, I wanted him to come back to Kansas City, I think the Chiefs did upgrade it at safety. Yeah. I think that Justin Reid is a better player today than Tyrann Mathieu. I do believe that. Tyrann Mathieu wasn't an all-pro last season. I think Justin Reid, based on age, physicality, is going to be a better player in this defense than Tyrann Mathieu was last season.
And he learned a lot from Tyrann, too.
Yes, so we upgraded there. Chiefs also upgraded at corner with McDuffie. I think this dude's going to be a stud. I don't talk about McDuffie a lot because I think he's going to be like one of those. I view him kind of like, and this sounds weird, but let me explain. I view him as like an offensive lineman, where you only hear their name when they do something wrong. That's how I'm going to treat McDuffie, because I'm so confident in him that I don't want to give him credit when he does things great, because trust me when I say we will. But I'm just expecting it.
The expectations are there for the first pick. I'm just expecting it. He's our first pick.
I think McDuffie's just that guy where you can just expect him to be solid and day one contributor. I'm not sitting here saying he's going to be Darrelle Revis, but he could be. Yeah. He could be. He legitimately could be like that next great cornerback.
Or just simply being a Marcus Peters.
Yeah. Why do you think teams like the Bills wanted him so bad?
Yeah.
Why do you think teams are at that 2/3 of the end of the draft, the first round? People were like, "God, let's go get McDuffie," and they were pissed when the Chiefs traded up and got him because they knew that just adds to the equation of the Chiefs. That just adds another a bullet in the chamber for Patrick Mahomes and the ability to win and go further in the playoffs, because that's something the Chiefs have struggled with, is not having that cornerback one. Have they gotten away with it? Yeah. That's why I started buying into the culture from the way Brett Veach was drafting and signing guys at that position. I'm like, Brett Veach clearly doesn't see this position the way most other teams do, where you take a guy in the first round or you go and spend big money on like a Jalen Ramsey, even though the Chiefs were in the sweepstakes for him. I was buying into that culture, but then the Chiefs just flipped it on its head and went and got a cornerback day, the very first out the gate, when everyone thought they were going to for sure go out and get edge rusher, defensive end, or defensive lineman. That's not what happened.
Right.
So I think that the Chiefs saw something in him so special that they changed their own philosophy in a way, because it was there for 4 years. The Chiefs did something. Then you traded for Charvarius Ward for a backup center in 2018. Right? You go and pick up Bashaud Breeland on a 1-year, $4 million deal. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. The fact that this is happening the way it is tells me that the Chiefs are that much confident in Trent McDuffie. Why shouldn't I be the same way? So I think that's going to make it easier for guys in the pass rush because I think the secondary is so far more talented. You're not going to have guys like Daniel Sorensen out there just getting burnt 4 times a week. You're going to have these young, excited guys to play NFL football in this Spags defense, and I think that's what's going to happen. I think you're going to see that take place, and I don't know what your thoughts are on Trent McDuffie. That's how I view him.
Yeah, I look at him as like just a skilled ball. Like he has great ball skills. A guy that knows how to read the quarterback's eyes. A guy that knows how to track the ball with the receiver, plays like a receiver on the defensive side. You know, his ability to stay and keep his hips on a swivel. His skill set is gnarly, man. The guy, his ability to track the ball, like I said, and keep his eye on the player that he is, guarding at hand, and his ability just to know, his instincts to know when to be at the right place at the right time. Like I said, reading the quarterback's eyes, not getting fooled on being stared, like the quarterback's looking him off. He knows he has that, and he comes from a great program. Washington has produced good corners. So I think if he can be a guy that's kind of like a ball hawk and has those great ball skills, while everyone else is like, not that he's not aggressive, but like, we have all those other guys that are like out there just laying people out and it's good to have that balance of guys that are more skilled with the ball skills and everything, and then the other guys that are like the aggressive guys, the guys that are going to put the tombstones down out there. I'm excited about this whole core, man. I really, really am, to see how it kind of comes together. And Spagnuolo is probably just a kid in the candy store, man, with all these young studs out there. So I don't know who's going to be the guys out there as far as like starting. I really don't know who's going to be the guys that are going to be starting so far. I mean, McDuffie obviously is going to be starting, but a guy, who's going to be the next, the safety outside of Thornhill and Cook and these other guys. Who knows who's going to be starting alongside L'Jarius Sneed. The rotation here is deep, and that's all I can say. I am definitely happy about having this much depth at the defensive back positions. So yeah, man, I'm over the moon. We just got to find guys that can tackle the quarterback and finish plays up front. But yeah, it's gonna be fun.
And then I'm thinking about something that has to do with, and I don't want to get too far ahead, but somebody that we really haven't talked about in regards to, we talk about these 1-year deals. You have your McCole Hardmans, your Juan Thornhills, your Rojos, your Clyde Edwards-Helaires. At least that's how I view him. Is this is like his final shot to really make an impact on this team and convince the Chiefs to hold on to him for the next couple of years. But there's a guy across the board, McCole Hardman, all these guys, like I said, that Juju Smith-Schuster, that have these prove-it deals in place. Frank Clark even. Mm-hmm. What about Chris Jones? Like, he doesn't have to prove himself, but I think there's a significant chance this is Chris Jones' last season in Kansas City. Mm-hmm. He has another year left on his deal, and his cap hit goes up way even further than it was this next season, which I think is like $27 million. I think the Chiefs are going to really entertain the thought of trading him. Here's why. He'll be 28 years old this season, and we all know that's the number where the Chiefs usually don't extend guys. Like our guy BJ Kissel says all the time. They don't like to extend guys after that 28, 29 mark. Yeah. They don't like that.
It's kind of the Patriot way too.
Yeah, and I think there's a significant chance that happens, that the Chiefs entertain trading Chris Jones after the season. And I think if Chris Jones is really looking for a contract extension beyond 29 years old, he's going to have to put out some good film this year. Now, he always does.
Yeah.
But where it's pivotal is in the playoffs. And we all know
availability too.
Chris Jones in the playoffs has either missed games or he's never had a sack. And he's played 12 playoff games. That's almost unheard of. Like,
unacceptable.
Yeah, he averages around 8-9 sacks a season through a 16-game, 17-game schedule. But he has 0 and 12 games in the playoffs. Like, that's... Now, I know that, it ups the ante in the playoffs. You're playing better teams on a more normal basis when you go deep in the playoffs. But if you're a great player like Chris Jones, we all know him to be, you got to perform at a higher level in the playoffs. So I think this season is pivotal for Chris Jones for his, in my opinion, his next stand wherever he ends up going, because he's going to obviously want a contract extension no matter where he goes. Yeah. And I'm sure the Chiefs are going to try to trade him to a place that not only suits their needs, but give him an opportunity to continue to extend his career and maybe have some more success, which is going to probably be more on the NFC side of things. So, I don't know. I was thinking about that this week too, and I was like, man, I wonder how it's going to be viewed for Chris Jones this year, because I could be wrong. The Chiefs could say, hey, Chris, we have an extension in place, and you agree to it. We're happy to give it to you.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the reality, though.
Yeah, I mean, this offseason, he's been putting a lot of things out there, too, about how he loves the Chiefs Kingdom so much. He's been putting a lot of feelers out there about being here forever and things like that. So I know he wants to be a Chief. I know he wants to be he loves it here. He's always, reiterated that. But I don't know. I mean, it really. I mean, he's gonna want to get paid handsomely. I mean, He's already been paid great here. Obviously, he's had this contract's been great for him, but. I don't know. Do you think there's a possibility where we use him? We try to experiment with him on the edge again this season?
No, I don't. I think that even though I know that his hand injury is what caused the majority of his ineffectiveness, right. I think the Chiefs realize how important he is in the middle of that defensive line because outside of him, there's really no one they can bank on. Yeah. And that's the unfortunate thing because I do think Chris Jones could be effective on the outside because he's a mammoth and he's quick. He's got a quick burst, all those things. Yeah. But given the context of this defense as currently constructed, even though they need desperately edge rush, they need Chris Jones in the middle just as much. And I think that's why you're going to see him stay there. And I think he's going to continue to eat in the middle of the defensive line because he's one of the 5 best interior defensive linemen in the league.
Right.
I don't think that's even a question. But I think that the Chiefs need to see what he's going to do, and it'll benefit the Chiefs either way because if they have to end up spending the money and extend Chris Jones, they're getting a guy that they believe in, obviously, that they've already paid once. But on the more realistic side of things, if he goes out there and has a 12, 13 sack season, Chiefs win a Super Bowl or get to the Super Bowl again.
Frank Clark will be out the books.
All of a sudden, Chris Jones becomes a guy you're getting a first-round pick out of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All of a sudden, there's a team out there that's desperate, like a Philadelphia Eagles team that loses Fletcher Cox or something like that. And like, well, Chris Jones is 40 years younger. We'll give him an extension.
Yeah.
The Eagles are on the verge of becoming a really great team if you added Chris Jones or something like that, or the Dallas Cowboys, a team like that.
Yeah, I think he would be a hot commodity on the free market. If that
and the
was
Chiefs
something.
could really, really capitalize on that trade, and that's just the business of the league, man. It's the business of the sport. Is that eventually you just know that the guy doesn't make sense for you monetarily at the age that he's now at. I would love to see Chris Jones finish his career here, but that's the fan fantasy.
Yeah.
That's a fantasy, where you just want to see your guy stay here forever. That's not business, man. We all know Chris Jones is going to want another contract extension. He's going to want to get paid again. But this is the biggest reason why I wanted to see the Chiefs go and attack the defensive line early and often in the draft. If you recall, the first 2 picks I had the Chiefs making was edge rush and then defensive tackle.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to see a contingency plan in place for Chris Jones. But now that we know that the Chiefs can have upwards of 10 to 12 picks next season, they're probably going to attack that full face and head on in next year's draft. And they're going to say, hey, let's go get our next defensive tackle. Let's go get our next Chris Jones. Because even to that point, Chris Jones was a second-round pick. He wasn't even a first-round pick. And the Chiefs got themselves, in my opinion, a Hall of Fame player in Chris Jones in the second round. So even if the Chiefs were to accumulate more mid-round picks, they could feel confident in their drafting abilities to go and get another Chris Jones or go and start spending big money, which they will have next year, to go and get a Chandler Jones type of guy, somebody in the middle of the defensive line. They can really go and do the opposite of what they just did this offseason and go and spend big money on free agents. I think that could happen.
Yeah, I'm all for trying to find a way to keep Chris Jones here, but if we do end up having a sale, I mean, I'm pretty sure we can get a nice, handsome return for him. But I love Chris Jones to death. I would love to see him here his whole career. That'd be great. That'd be ideal. But he's going to have to produce. He's going to have to get those sacks up, too. I mean, we all know the guy can get pressures, but finishing plays has been a weakness of his lately. And we're going to have to see it from him and Frank Clark this year. And one can only hope, to be honest. So, I mean, I think I'm actually of the mind that we do have him on the outside at some point this year. Rotating him out on the outside every once in a while. I think that's going to be something we do see, though, because I think they were really trying to make that happen last year, and it just wasn't working, and our secondary was getting burnt badly. I think if our secondary is producing better this year, I think we'll see Chris Jones on the edge a little bit more, mix it up. I think that's going to happen.
While we wait for our guy Pranav Sharaman to join us, hopefully hear back from him, I have a couple more things I want to talk about. I'm just going to play this audio clip, and you guys tell me what you I'm going to give you my thoughts, and I want to get Trevor's. This is from Patrick Mahomes.
I'm surprised a little just because I feel like we love Tyreek here. We've always loved him. We still love him. I saw him out at Formula One in Miami and everything like that. But, I mean, I'm sure it had something to do with trying to get his podcast some stuff and get it rolling. But definitely, I still love Tyreek. He's a one-of-a-kind player. But as you know, in Coach Reid's offense, it takes the whole team. I mean, this offense was rolling before I got here. This offense was rolling when I was a young Cowboy fan watching the Eagles beat up on the Cowboys. So, I mean, it's an offense that's more than one player, and that includes myself.
Have you talked to him at all about it?
I haven't talked to him since the podcast that came out. But, I mean, I talked to him in Formula One in Miami in May, and everything seemed fine. I'm surprised.
So, y'all remember 2018 when Patrick Mahomes had one of the greatest seasons of all time? And you guys remember what happened as his career was taking off? in 2019, the season the Chiefs won the Super Bowl when the Chiefs played the Bears on Sunday Night Football in Chicago, and Patrick Mahomes was whooping that ass, and he walks to the sidelines counting to number 10 to basically tell the people they fucked up by taking Mitchell Trubisky with the second overall pick while Patrick Mahomes was still on the board. And remember when Eric Bieniemy said in 2020 that Patrick Mahomes is a competitive prick? And he wasn't laughing and he wasn't joking. He was being very serious about that. You guys all love the Mamba mentality. You guys all love the intensity of Michael Jordan and all these other greats that people flock to and gawk at and admire their sheer will and intensity and competitiveness. Do you guys realize that we have that here in Kansas City as our quarterback? I don't think that we know he's the nice guy, the aw shucks dude, the family man. You know, Trevor and I, we know his family. We know what he came from, and we know how good of the good people they are. And we know what kind of good guy that Patrick Mahomes is. But when it's in between those lines, this motherfucker is a savage, dude. And I don't want to bring up and rehash the Tyreek Hill podcast. I want to focus on Patrick Mahomes and what his vision is for this next season, for seasons to come. Because as great as Patrick Mahomes has been in his career, which, by the way, playoffs included, the man averages over 5,000 passing yards and 48 total touchdowns per season. The fact that that's not even his prime yet, the man hasn't even entered his prime yet. You guys got to understand that. The man's not even 27. He won't be 27 until September. His prime will be age 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. Those are his prime years as an NFL quarterback. We're years away from that. And this is what this man's already done and has dominated the AFC and the NFL as a whole for the last 4 years since he stepped on as the starting quarterback in this league. And now he's got even extra motivation. Now he's got one of his, what he thought was one of his boys, one of his brothers in this league out here talking about Tua Tagovailoa. Regardless of what whether it's pandering, and regardless of what the intent is, he heard that. And we know that when we had the NFL Top 100 back-to-back years of Patrick Mahomes finishing at 4, he tweeted out the little notes thing. And he goes out there and wins a Super Bowl and then gets to another one the year after that and puts up MVP numbers. You don't think that he's utilizing this stuff as gas and as a motivation and ammunition? We just saw the 4-time NBA champion Warriors literally calling out Nick Wright, First Take, Jaren Jackson, Charles Barkley, all these dudes. The moment they won the title.
Bulletin board material, man.
You don't think these dudes are listening? You don't think these dudes are paying attention? You don't think they're paying attention to everything that's being said about them? They know. They know. Patrick Mahomes knows. And he's using this. Oh, you don't think I can be great without Tyreek Hill? Watch me. Why do you guys think I started the show off with Juju Smith-Schuster and Travis Kelce and how we're going to be fine here with those two guys leading the way? Because we are. You know why? Because Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback. It's that simple.
Andy Reid is the coach.
And Andy Reid is the coach. There is not a better head coach quarterback duo in this league, maybe ever. I don't say that lightly because there's been some great ones. But I don't know if I've ever seen one greater than this one. And it's not done. And I don't think it's going to be done for at least another 3 or 4 years. So imagine the damage they're about to start doing on this league with that type of motivation. Also considering the fact that they just had the biggest meltdown in the Patrick Mahomes era as their last game. That second half, Patrick Mahomes recently just come out and talked about it, about how, you know, all he's been doing has been thinking about that, fuming on that. Chris Jones has been talking about that too, about how he knows if he would have just wrapped up Joe Burrow on that third down, the Chiefs win the game. These guys know, man. They pay attention. They see everybody picking the Bills to win the Super Bowl, and Josh Allen's the best quarterback in football, according to Chris Sims, who's still trying to fight to get out of his dad's shadow. They see what these people are saying. They understand it. And just like the Warriors, because people love to make that Steph Curry, Patrick Mahomes comparison, all the more reason for you guys to make that comparison even further. Because Steph Curry, when First Take did the zero, Kendrick Perkins guys doing the 0 titles left and Steph Curry over the next 4 years, that was just a year ago. Steph Curry did that exact same motion at the press conference when they're talking, and when he's talking about the finals, he remembers these things. Klay Thompson's calling out Jaren Jackson from the Grizzlies from a regular season game that took place 4.5 months before the finals.
Yep.
You don't think Patrick's doing that? You don't think Travis Kelce and Chris Jones are listening to guys like Tyreek Hill saying the shit that they're saying? Because it's supposed to be a brotherhood, man. And what's frustrating about it all is that Tyreek was the one that made out. He went and got himself record money, living in Miami, state tax, all that stuff's gone. He's out there in Miami doing his thing, playing football still, making cash. And he's over here talking about Patrick Mahomes not being more accurate than Tua Tagovailoa. It's fucking wild, man. And I know that Patrick Mahomes sees it the same way we do. Because imagine it being imagine somebody saying something about us like that. You don't think that it's going to be even more for us? Like the dynamics of those statements would matter even more to us than it would to somebody that cares about us or follows our work? Come on, man.
For me, I didn't expect anything less. This is how it goes a lot of times when players go from one place to another. And he was asked the question. To be fair, he was asked the question. Granted, he probably knew the questions beforehand that were going to be asked. And they were probably pre-approved, I'm sure. It's his podcast. But he was asked the question. He did answer it. He answered it to what he would probably want to say is honestly. We all know that's not true because we know that Tua is in no way better than Mahomes at literally anything when it comes to football. Just watch the game, and that's pretty evident. But I mean, this is a thing, you know. When certain players go play for another quarterback, they like to gloss them up. They like to, give them their flowers. They like to, give them the edge on whoever they played with before, just to kind of, butter them up. So hey, give me that, give me the extra few targets because if I shouted you out, I gave you some good words and I gave you your praise. I didn't expect any. I get it. I hope Mahomes uses this as fuel. I don't give a shit about this stuff. I love Tyreek still. He's gone. He's not here. He's not a Chief anymore. He's now the enemy. Period. Anyone who leaves this team is now the enemy. It's us against everyone else. It's every man. It's every team for themselves. And we all understand this. Yes, he was a brother. Yes, he gave us. He contributed on an extremely high level here, bringing us the greatest glory we've ever felt as Chiefs fans. And he was maybe possibly outside of Mahomes the biggest part of that. With the Wasp play, things like that. Those are just things that are going to be entrenched and deep into our culture for the rest of our lives and the rest of the existence of this team and this franchise. So I'll never forget Tyreek Hill and the impact that he brought here and the fan favorite that he was here, man. The Cheetah will forever be entrenched in Chiefs lore, and I love the guy to death. And that's just something that I kind of expect for a lot of ex-players that go somewhere else. They tend to say silly things to lift the team that they're on now, the quarterback they're playing for now. This happens frequently, and he's not exempt from that, obviously. So it is what it is. Me as a fan, I'm just looking past it. I just want to see Mahomes go out there and fuck it all up this next season. I can't wait for that. And Tyreek Hill's going to do well this season. He is. He's going to get funneled with so many targets. I think this year he's going to have good stats at the end of the year. He's going to accumulate numbers. But all I care about is wins and losses, and I see the Chiefs having a whole lot more W's this season than the Dolphins. This also adds something for Patrick Mahomes' MVP status, because if we notice, and our guy Pranav let me know that he's ready to go, so we'll get that situated in just a second. But Patrick Mahomes has an opportunity here to have the narrative on his side for the first time since 2018. Because in 2018, Patrick Mahomes was the new guy on the block. We all knew that, oh my God, this guy just blew all of our minds. We didn't expect him to be this great. Now all of a sudden he's this great, and we need to give him the MVP because he just had an historic season that's comparable to Peyton Manning and Peyton Manning's veteran years and Tom Brady's veteran years. Those are the only seasons that really are comparable, and Patrick Mahomes did that out the gate. Now, the last couple of years, people just kind of gotten used to it. Like we talk about the Mahomes fatigue, how everyone just got used to what he was. So when he's having seasons of 38 touchdowns and 6 interceptions with 4,700 yards, people are like, oh yeah, we'll put Josh Allen ahead of him in the MVP, ratings and votes. They got so used to him because if he's not throwing for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns, it's almost looked like he didn't have a great season. That's how great he is. And now without Tyreek Hill, the narrative has been what? Oh, he's not going to be able to be the great guy he once was. He's going to get exposed, things of this nature. That narrative is going to change quickly when Patrick Mahomes goes out there and makes Juju Smith-Schuster an all-pro again, and Travis Kelce has another 1,000-yard, 10-touchdown season. Then what can they say? And the numbers back it up because, again, in a short sample size that we have, Patrick Mahomes is 4-1, averaging over 370 yards with 8 touchdowns, 1 interception, without Tyreek Hill in the team. And that's not even including the game that Patrick Mahomes didn't have Tyreek Hill in the regular season game against the Steelers. Right.
Like, if you add that game into it, it's even more insane numbers. So that's what I'm trying to get people to understand here, is that this is something that is going to, and I know, Trevor, you're right, like, we don't really care about it because we know what we got here in Kansas City, but to use it as fuel as the ultimate competitor that I talk about Patrick Mahomes being is something you cannot take lightly. And that's something I'm going to pay attention to, because each and every week, Patrick Mahomes is going to view that as, this is my week to prove it. This is my week to show that we haven't lost a step, that we're going to be just fine without our best threat. It's so weird because Davante Adams is considered the best wide receiver in football, yet to me, at least from what I've seen, the focus has been more on the Chiefs losing Tyreek than the Packers losing Aaron Rodgers, or than the Packers losing Davante Adams. Maybe it's because Aaron Rodgers is at the end of his career and Patrick is still very much in the early stages of his career. He's just in chapter 2. Maybe that's the reason why, but the point still remains that this has obviously been a focus of people are paying attention to, so much so that I think that when people see Patrick Mahomes out there having an all-pro season once again, it's going to add to that Patrick Mahomes getting his second MVP, which adds to his legacy as, in my opinion, the greatest quarterback to ever live. And for Andy Reid, I mean, you saw how upset he was. I still won't defend what he did. I won't defend, him calling Todd Lebo a shock jock. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to listen to that, because that's disrespectful in my eyes.
It was an emotional moment.
But yes, exactly. It shows you how much this does actually matter to Andy Reid.
Oh, yeah.
And if he's going to be, so you think about it,
he's great at disguising it typically, but that one he kind of slipped through the cracks.
The best head coach quarterback duo in the league is now going to be proving themselves once again. How exciting is that shit?
I'm excited. much excite.
Much excite. Mucho excitement.
Excite.
You want to talk about excitement? I'm excited to announce the fact that we have finally our guy. He's going to be on the show. He's been busy. I get it. It's what we all do here, but we're here excited on this Saturday. He's a creator for TWSN, Pranav Sriraman, joining us today. How we doing, Pranav?
I'm doing great. How about you guys?
Doing good.
Dude, we're doing great. We're so glad to have you on today, bro. I hit you up a few weeks ago, and I was like, look, you keep me in line sometimes on Twitter, man. Not everybody has my respect, my attention when it comes to that stuff, because I know a lot of people on here just to start shit. But you're somebody that I know is out here trying to create content, trying to give good viewpoints, give some insight from where you're seeing things in the world of sports. And you guys at TWSN are across the board. So that's actually where I want to start, man. How did you start with TWSN? What got you? What made you a Chiefs fan? All these things, man. We want to know about you, bro.
So yeah, I got started at TWSN by reaching out to one of my friends who works there, and then eventually I just got going as a writer, and then started creating YouTube videos, stuff like that. And then eventually I wanted to expand my role, not just do writing or not just do YouTube, but like break down film, stuff like that, to really just kind of educate the fan and like give my viewpoints on things, like you mentioned. And I became a Chiefs fan. I was born and grew up in Overland Park, Kansas for about 6 years, and then I moved to Virginia for 2 years. Currently, I live in St. Louis, but yeah, always been a Chiefs fan. I wasn't born a Royals fan. I didn't get into baseball much until I moved into St. Louis, where I volunteer for the Cardinals. So yeah, just that journey has been pretty much my life journey.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, I wanted to get your thoughts, because now we know that Kansas City, your native land, my native land, Trevor's native land, is now a host city for the 2026 FIFA World Cup, man. What are your thoughts on this?
I'm so excited. I saw it as soon as the news released, and I talked to my dad saying we got to go. 2026, I mean, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to go see a World Cup hosted in our city, which makes it even more special. So, yeah, I'm beyond thrilled that it's coming to Arrowhead. Absolutely, man. So I started the show off with some Chiefs thoughts and viewpoints and opinions when it comes to the transition of the Tyreek era. We're kind of over the whole podcast side of things because we know what Tyreek was doing, regardless of whether it was the right thing to do or not. The point is, I wanted to alleviate some anxiety, some fear from Chiefs fans about the transition and how this offense is going to be fluid without Tyreek Hill. And I broke the numbers down about how Travis Kelce, with or without Tyreek, has been a Hall of Fame tight end. And I think that the Juju Smith-Schuster signing has been very much slept on. Now,
I think McCole Hardman's going to have a really good year. I think MVS adds an X factor of being a guy that breaks the top off of the defense. I think there's some really talented individuals in this offense that are going to contribute and help Patrick Mahomes lead this team, hopefully back to another Super Bowl. But these two guys in particular are the ones that I focus on the most because I think they're the ones that Patrick Mahomes is going to trust and lean into the most this season. Obviously, Travis Kelce's been his career-long tight end and his career-long best friend pretty much. And then Juju is a guy that I think is going to fit this offense seamlessly. We all know that Andy Reid wanted him a year previous, sending him pictures of the Lombardi Trophy. They know this guy can fit this offense and be very productive because they've seen him do it with the tail end of the career Ben Roethlisberger, Duck Hodges, Mason Rudolph. They got Patrick Mahomes. What are your thoughts on this transition? Who are you looking at? Do you agree with me that Juju and Travis are the guys, or do you think somebody else is going to be that dude that emerges as that wide receiver one?
Yeah, so obviously losing Tyreek is going to be big. I don't think anyone will doubt that. But I actually think this wide receiving core is better than the one we had last year. It's way more diverse. You have options like Juju and Kelce who can kind of eat in the intermediate part of the field, short routes. And then you have guys like MBS, guys like McCole, guys like Sky Moore who could do a little bit of both, who could take the top off the defense and stretch the field. So I think it's really diverse. What you're hearing from training camp is that Mahomes loves Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and I think that guy is really going to be our wide receiver one, along with Juju. Obviously, Kelsey's the de facto wide receiver one, if you want to call it like that. But as far as our actual receiver trio goes, I think that it's going to be MVS. He's going to be the guy who's converting on the majority of the chunk plays. And I think that connection down the field is going to be incredible because the thing with MVS is when he was in Green Bay, the main flaw with him really was his hands, but he corrected that over time. And I'm confident that this is going to be the best version of himself coming into KC, not really having much of a flaw as a deep field threat. So I'm excited to see that connection.
We saw that the Chiefs this week signed Jerick McKinnon, and personally, I was really excited about this. I feel kind of foolish to think that this wasn't going to be an assumption. We saw him at Patrick Mahomes' wedding in Maui, Hawaii, a few months ago. I'm thinking, okay, this guy's clearly in, and he's going to have a job. And if he has a job in the league, it'll probably be with the Chiefs. And lo and behold, that's exactly what took place. And the reason I'm excited about this is because although I believe that Clyde and Rojo are going to be the guys that really carry the load for the majority of the season, I view Jerick McKinnon as a playoff body, a guy that the Chiefs know that they can utilize late in the season in the playoffs because when the lights shine brightest, this man produces. I mean, in the year last year, he didn't start a single game, only played in 12, had about 25 total touches. Well, in the playoffs, in just 3 games, he starts all 3. He has over 50 touches and absolutely shined bright in the Steelers, the Bills game. He gave the Chiefs what they needed out of the backfield, and in particular in catching the ball out of the backfield. What are your thoughts on this move? Do you think that Jerick McKinnon is going to match, do better, do worse when it comes to production for this team? And how do you see the running back stable as a whole?
I don't think he's going to do better than either Clyde or Rojo as production-wise goes, because obviously those two are the main 2 guys. But as far as having more depth at the position, I absolutely love it because McKinnon brings something that Clyde doesn't really bring and Rojo doesn't really bring, and that is lightning fast speed. And you kind of need that out of the backfield to kind of mix it up at times because those guys are better at like using their power. But Jerick McKinnon is a smaller guy. He is just a burner with his feet. And I feel like that 7th round rookie that we drafted, Isaiah Pacheco, is that how you say it? Yeah. I feel like he's kind of the same way, where he's kind of a smaller guy, but he's one of the fastest players out of this draft. And you could use that like diversity in the backfield so that you have a wide variety of options and defenses have to cover you differently. So I love it. I love bringing him back. He's on a cheaper deal than that doesn't really affect the cap at all. So yeah, it's a perfect move. He fits his team, and I love it. Yeah.
I love what the Chiefs did with the secondary in the draft. I think they knocked it out of the park. We're hearing great reviews about Brian Cook, about how he's emerging. I think they're going to utilize Leo Chenal more of as like an outside linebacking type of guy because he does really well at getting to the quarterback. In fact, he's better at doing that than pass protection. But I think Trent McDuffie is going to be a day one contributor. I believe in Karlaftis. I think it's going to be a progressive thing with him where he's not great immediately, but I'm willing to be proven wrong with that one. But when it comes to the depth of edge rush. I mean, I've been preaching it since day one. I wanted to see the Chiefs go out there in free agency and go get a guy, and go make some things happen. Draft. I had the Chiefs being very aggressive in the draft and trading into the top 10 and going to get a guy like Kayvon Thibodeau, somebody of that nature. They didn't do that. They sat back, and at the very end of the first round, they went and got Karlaftis, and they really haven't done anything in free agency and in trades. They let Melvin Ingram walk. They didn't really do a lot. And now we're sitting here and seeing guys like Robert Quinn in Chicago, who's essentially saying, y'all need to trade me because I know y'all going to suck this year. I want to contend for the first time in my career. I'm 32 years old. I got 3 years left on my deal. If you were running this team, Pranav, would you make a move like Robert Quinn, or would you be a little more conservative and maybe sign a guy like JPP off the free agent market?
I would probably take the conservative approach. Preferably, I would have gone after a guy like Jadeveon Clowney, but reports are that he was always going to go wherever Deshaun Watson went. And then I would have also looked at other guys as well. But I would go after JPP for the fact that, you save some money. He's been a good edge rusher in the past. And I like Karlaftis coming out of the draft, but like you said, Frank Clark, I mean, you need someone to account for on the defensive line. Chris Jones draws the majority of the attention, which is why the other guys' stats were kind of inflated, let's say. And Karlaftis is going to get a lot of attention like he did in college. Frank Clark last season didn't get a lot of double teams. He didn't win a lot off the edge, and that's concerning. And you want to have someone better at that position. So, I mean, a guy like JPP can work, but I'm not sure how much that moves the table. So, I mean, so if Robert Quinn is in the cards and the money works out and he could restructure his deal in order to really help our cap situation, I think that could be a huge move that we can make.
A few weeks ago, we had Charles Goldman from Chiefs Wire on our show, and one of the biggest storylines out of Chiefs camp all offseason has been the acquisition of Justin Ross. And we know what he was at Clemson. We know how great he was, quite frankly, in that freshman year with Trevor Lawrence. And I think the Chiefs believe that they can get that out of him now. I know they were one of the 5 teams that even cleared Justin Ross medically. And to Charles Goldman's point, he said if he wasn't healthy enough to play, the Chiefs wouldn't have gone this route. They wouldn't be out here promoting him the way that they do. Now, there could be some smoke and mirrors with all that, but I don't see how that really benefits the Chiefs unless they actually do believe he can be a contributor for this team. What are your takeaways when it comes to Justin Ross? Do you think this guy is going to make the team? And if he does, do you think he's a guy that could really blow up on the spot, or is he just going to be more of a project?
I think that he is going to make the team. I think that, talent wins out, and he is talented enough to make the team if he's fully healthy. But I think that he's probably going to be more of a project, not in the sense that, he has the physical attributes that you need to build up and mold into like a knowledgeable receiver, a talented receiver. But I think that he already has the talent, but just working through the stages of, completely clearing him and then seeing like what works best for him, what role works best for him, whether that is a yak guy, whether that's down the field, whether that's intermediate, really seeing what mold he fits within the offense. And you have to do that throughout preseason mainly. I think that's where he's going to get the most of his reps to really figure that out. But yeah, I think it's going to be somewhat of an easing in process that you probably won't see with a guy like Sky Moore, who is drafted to play a specific role. I think that Justin Ross is kind of going to be more eased in. And if you're going to see him this season, it's probably going to be later on in the season rather than in the early weeks.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. The one of the things that led me to hit you up, man, and say, hey, we got to have you on the show is, when you came at me about Orlando Brown Jr., I was like, oh, shit. My guy Pranav, man, he ain't about what I'm saying. He don't like what I'm saying about my guy Orlando Brown. I'm over here hyping him up and, comparing him to Trent Williams, and you put a toe tag on me, dude. You really zipped that bag over me, man. You put the body bag on me and you threw the dirt. But in all seriousness, I really do want to get your thoughts on Orlando Brown Jr. as a whole, the situation. Mm-hmm. We know he just signed with the Delta Sports Group. Michael Portner, I believe, is his direct agent. A new situation. I think this is the first time Michael Portner has actually represented a pro athlete. So it is kind of strange how this is all developed. But Orlando Brown said there was a lot of things that they bonded on when it came to personal life stuff. So you can take that as you want. But the part I'm interested in is how is this going to help the Chiefs and Orlando Brown Jr. meet and agree to a contract extension before that July 15th deadline. I think it's going to happen because I think the Chiefs had this in motion all the way back, ironically, to where they were trying to get Trent Williams and pay him an exponential amount of money and to get that extension for him, even though he was already in his 30s. Orlando Brown is a lot younger than Trent Williams, and I think that they know that they got to pay him what he's worth, and I think the market's sitting around 5 years, $116.6 million total, and Orlando Brown is on a tag right now for about $16 million. He knows the leverage he has. He knows the Chiefs don't want to go into the season without him. How do you think this is all going to shake down?
I think that he's eventually going to get extended. I agree in that sense. I'm not sure if he's going to get a deal that surpasses Trent Williams, but I think that he's going to get somewhere kind of close to there because of his age, because of the fact that he's remained relatively healthy. My concern with Orlando Brown, and he improved upon it this season, was coming into this season, he wasn't like the most prolific pass blocker, and I understand that. He was in Baltimore, and his run blocking is absolutely elite. But I mean, he improved upon his pass blocking this season, which was encouraging to see. What I would like to see going into next season was how he deals with speed rushers. Like we saw in that Dallas Cowboys game, how Micah Parsons did this to everyone, but he was like Micah Parsons, as soon as the ball was snapped, he was getting off the edge so quick and burnt past Orlando Brown. Oh, I mean, he's not going to keep up with Micah Parsons, guys like that, with foot speed, but maybe with a little bit more hand fighting as a pass blocker, he can improve that area. But as far as when you're considering his age, how much more he can get better, I would probably max him out. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, because those left tackles aren't just walking around. You know, you gotta lock them up when you get them. And for what the Chiefs gave up to get him, I think that kind of told us what exactly they wanted to do with him, and I think that's to extend him for the next 5 to 6 years. I have a couple NBA questions for you, Pranav, because I know you follow the NBA really closely. This was a legacy builder for the Warriors, winning the NBA Finals, albeit against a Celtics team that doesn't really have a true superstar. But nevertheless, I think this really does build a debate. Trevor and I have actually talked about this a lot on and off air about where Steph Curry now resides amongst NBA all-time players. But first and foremost, I want to get your thoughts on the NBA Finals and where you have Steph Curry in the all-time, like the upper echelon of all-time NBA great players. Is he in your top 10? And if he's not, where's he at?
So I would probably say he's around my top 10. I would say the 8 through 11 range. I haven't decided where I would exactly place him in that range. But as far as the series goes in general, I mean, Jason Tatum, I have to say, sadly, was extremely underwhelming, especially as a scorer. Like throughout 4 games, I haven't seen the updated stat, but outside of shots in the restricted area, on 2-point field goal attempts, he was shooting 7 for 37, which is mind-bogglingly bad. I mean, his playmaking was good, his defense was good, but that's not going to cut it if your scoring is not up to par in the NBA Finals against the second-best defense in the league. I mean, Boston, outside of Tatum, did not have anyone who could really create advantages for others to score. And when you don't have that guy clicking on all cylinders, it's really tough to beat a team like the Golden State Warriors. And as far as the Warriors go, I mean, they have – I mean, we could talk about Andrew Wiggins and what he meant to them all day. I mean, defensively, offensively, not just his scoring, but getting those second chance rebounds in order to get open Curry shots. I mean, what he did was absolutely incredible. And it's going to be weird to see how they fix this money situation that they have, because they already pay the largest tax bill in NBA history. It's going to be weird to see how they're going to extend Wiggins, and they have to extend Poole, and they still need to keep the rest of the roster intact, which is going to be really interesting to see how they can do that while still contending for championships. But as far as Steph Curry's legacy goes, I mean, I think his peak, at his best, is easily better than Magic Johnson. Like at his very best, he's better than Magic Johnson. But in terms of longevity, I think he's kind of closing in already, because Magic Johnson didn't have the longest career. And if Steph Curry gets 1 more All-Star level season, 2 more All-Star level seasons, the argument for Magic being higher than him all time starts to kind of fade out, in my opinion.
See, Pranav, I'm really glad to hear that. I'm glad that you are a longevity guy, because that's how I've always felt about a lot of other debates. In particular, I don't know where you stand on it, but this is something I've always stood on when it comes to LeBron James and the GOAT debate.
He's my GOAT, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Because of the fact, see, Pranav's our guy, bro. He's already a friend of the show. This is my dude already. Because longevity has to matter. I hate. It's one of my biggest sports pet peeves is when people dismiss longevity as if that's just something that's given. When we talk, you mentioned Magic Johnson, one of the 10 greatest players of all time, played 13 seasons total. That wasn't like great seasons. That was total. So when we talk about guys like LeBron James playing 19, 20 seasons already, and he's never had a season where he's averaged, or outside of his rookie year, where he hasn't averaged 25 or more points, that's something you cannot just dismiss, especially when he's averaging 6, 7 assists, 7, 8 rebounds per season, with all the playoff games added to that, where he's played, I think, 2 or 3 seasons total in just the playoffs. So and longevity has to matter, and that's why I'm with you, and that's why I'm starting to entertain the thought that Steph will end up being a top 10 player. It's tough for me to still put him there because I think that there's still more to give. I think he's around the 12 range right now, but I'm with you, man. I think and I don't think he's anywhere near done. I think he's got another 4 or 5 years of great shooting basketball left.
That's the
just
thing
me off
Steph.
the side.
His game is going to age really well. Regardless.
Yes.
So you know he's going to get those extra years.
Yes, 100%. He's going to be... Yeah. Look at Ray Allen. He played till he was 39 years old. I mean, this dude was out there shooting. I mean, Steph may not be an MVP caliber player in the next 3 or 4 years because he's 33 now, but if he can still be a guy that's dropping 20 a night, that, to me, adds to his legacy because, to your point, it's a longevity thing. And speaking of longevity... The Lakers are a mess right now, man, and I gotta hear from you. I think it's inevitable that Russell Westbrook's getting traded, which is why I think the Lakers are honestly going that route about Darvin Ham, the new head coach. He's one of the greatest players of all time. They're upping his trade value in my eyes. I think he's gonna get traded. I think you could see a team like the Hornets or the Pacers or a team like that will give some role players back. I think guys like Zach LaVine are interested in playing for the Lakers. I don't know how possible it is. Reel this one in for me, though, man. How do you see this offseason going for the Lakers?
It's really interesting because they're in a spot where they can't do much. As far as Russell Westbrook goes, I'm not sure. Like, they want to trade him. I think that's the indication, but I'm not sure how they're going to get off that what team is going to take on that contract? And you probably have to offload a first-round pick to get rid of Russell Westbrook, which is unfortunate, but that's what it's come to. So, I mean, it's a situation where you want to get rid of a guy, but there's not many suitors. I think that if they desperately want to, they can get a deal done. They just have to give up more than what they would like to, like that 2027 first-round pick, which could end up being a top 5 pick one day once LeBron retires or once AD leaves or something like that. But, I mean, as far as their situation goes, I think Russell Westbrook, he's not as untradeable as people think. Like, he's been traded 3 times on this contract. I mean, if they want to get a deal done desperately, it just comes down to how much they're willing to give up to get off of Russell Westbrook. So, I mean, if they want to get it done, I think they can get it done, and they will. Possibly draft night, which is in less than a week. If they want to get a deal done then for a team that wants to get more first-round picks, I think that could be done. But as far as the rest of the roster goes, I mean, they're not really in a position to add to their depth because of their payroll of paying Russ so much, paying AD so much, paying LeBron so much. But I think that if AD is healthy and if LeBron is healthy, and AD is the biggest if of anyone, if they're both healthy, the Lakers had a top 10 defense when AD was on the floor this season. So, I mean, their defense would go from the lower 20s to the high 10s or something like that, which is a massive improvement compared to the rest of their supporting cast. But they still need to get better perimeter defense around AD and around LeBron in order to really elevate that unit. And Ham has put a priority on that improvement for the Lakers. And then as far as their offense goes, I don't really have much worries if they get off of Russ. I mean, LeBron is always going to lead an elite offense when he's on the floor. As long as you get shooters around him, like smart wings who know how to make extra passes, who knows where to find LeBron, where to throw lobs to AD, I think that they will be fine. Maybe they're not going to be their same 2020 selves where they just run through the Western Conference because the West has gotten better, but I think that they would undoubtedly be a playoff team.
You know, I noticed on your Twitter account, your pinned tweet is Ja Morant quote tweeting you, and what you said in your tweet is something that I echo vehemently. And I'm gonna tweet it. I'm gonna verbatim this real quick. It says, "Hating on Ja Morant for being an active Twitter user just like you and having fun on the court is so weird, but hating on his dad for just vibing Watching his son play basketball and respecting other NBA greats is even weirder. Sports fans just want something to be mad about. And Ja Morant quoted that and said, F them, we ball. And Pranav, that is I think we are in a weird place where people that are like 15, 20 years older than all of us are still of that belief that, social media doesn't exist, or it's a bad negative thing, and people that are using it are distracted, or they just care more about their brand than the game itself, even though the game is better now than it ever has been. Athletes are better than they ever have been. And it's unfortunate to see that. And it's funny, too, because to your point, it's like we hate the canned responses. We don't like it when these guys are like, well, I just take it one game at a time, and we just roll our eyes at it because we know that's bullshit. We know these guys care. We saw the Warriors calling out everybody and pulling all the receipts directly after the finals. Draymond Green literally did his podcast at the press conference booth. I mean, he's sitting there right with all the logos and stuff behind him. These guys care. And we care. So what the hell is this all about, man? I wanted to give you a platform to talk about this, expand on it if you wanted to. But more than anything, man, I wanted to pay my respects to this tweet because it's so true. And so true that Ja Morant himself acknowledged it. And I think that's awesome you vocalized that, man.
Yeah, so I even wrote an article about how like sports fans like are starting to more frequently, it's always been a thing, but they're more frequently starting to dehumanize the athlete. And the fact that, like, I also mentioned Ben Simmons' struggles. Like, Ben Simmons claimed that he had a back injury going into Game 4, and all the fans, all the analysts got on him for not wanting to step up for his team, but it was later revealed that he got back surgery like 2 days after the playoffs ended. So my main point of that was really, you don't know what these players are really going through. So how about, like, before you come bash on them, like, you can bash them for their on-court play. That's great, but you don't have to belittle their experiences or trash on what they're actually talking about, how they're going through something personally. That's really where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. All right, one last question for you here, Pranav. And I really appreciate your time, man. We gotta get you back on the show, man, because I really like what you're bringing to the table here, man. But I ask all of our guests this because it's so important. I'm going to keep asking people this until the season begins, the regular season begins for the NFL. Looking at the AFC landscape and seeing how aggressive these teams were and how they were like, to hell with the Chiefs, man. We're sick of them dominating. We're sick of them, representing the AFC and the AFC Championship. It's practically a Chiefs invite now where it's at Arrowhead each and every week. We're sick of seeing Patrick Mahomes dominate. We're sick of seeing Andy Reid just continually put himself in the upper echelon as one of the 3 greatest head coaches to ever live. Looking at all these moves and the aggressiveness and how the Chiefs were rather conservative this offseason, do you believe that the Chiefs are still that class, the top of the mountain here, and that Patrick Mahomes is going to be the guy that represents the AFC once again? Or do you think that there is a changing in the guard here? Maybe the Bengals, maybe the Chargers finally decide to get their heads out of their ass and play to the level of their capabilities. Do you think the Bills finally take down the Chiefs? Do you think that the Ravens put it together and Lamar Jackson does something different than he's done in the last 4 seasons? What are your thoughts on the AFC landscape as a whole?
So, I mean, I think that it's weird because, I mean, as all of these teams are trying to sell out and win this year, I mean, you're seeing teams go deep into their checkbook to try to win this year. The Chiefs are still among the top 3 teams in the AFC, in my opinion, along with the Bills and Chargers, and they're perfectly suited to win a Super Bowl this year and win long term because of their situation. And I think that is the best way you could set yourself up for future success. I mean, as far as the rest of the AFC goes, I think that obviously there's tier 1 with the Bills and Chargers. I think that the Chiefs are actually still going to finish first in the division. People don't like to hear that. People are like, oh, what are you talking about? They just lost Tyreek Hill. But, I mean, if the receiving core got better as a whole, despite losing Tyreek Hill, and the running back room is getting deeper, and the defense is going to be better, and you still have the same quarterback who is adjusted to those 2 high shells and the light box defenses. I mean, why wouldn't they be better than they were from a year ago, where they still had one of the 5 best offenses in the league in what was considered a down year? Like, it's really baffling to me how, like, and even last year, the narratives and the standard that Patrick Mahomes and this Chiefs offense is held to is absolutely absurd, because you don't hear people talking about how Josh Allen had a down year. I had an even worse year than Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes finished second in EPA per play last year, behind the MVP and Aaron Rodgers. I mean, and that was in what many people considered the down year, and people don't talk about that for every other quarterback in the league. And that just goes to show how great this Chiefs offense is when they're led by him. So, I mean, until proven otherwise, the AFC still runs through Arrowhead, and the Chiefs are the team to beat.
He's up here preaching, man. This
100%.
this is church. This is fucking church right here. That is Pranav Sharaman, my dude. I appreciate and respect everything you say, man. Even when, like I said, even when you've challenged me on Twitter and stuff, you've always come at it with a representation of, look, let's have a conversation. Let's not trying to body bag people. That's what I appreciate from you, bro. It's all fun. It's what we do here, bro. And before you get out of here, plug away. Tell the people where they can find you, your social medias, your content, everything, man. We want people to follow you.
Yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter at Pranav Sharaman, as you can see in the name tag below. And in my Twitter bio, I have a link full of all of my different content platforms. I mean, you could check out my author profile in that link. You could check out my school author profile in that link. You could check out pretty much anything. My TikTok is at Knob Sports, where I do film breakdowns or just talk about sports. And my Instagram is at Sports World Debates. So you could see my occasional posts on there when I want to go in depth on that platform as well. So yeah, you could find me. Just follow my Twitter, hit that link, and you can basically see everywhere I go. So yeah, that's pretty much my plug.
That is Pranav Sharaman. We appreciate his time. We appreciate your time, brother. We will have you back. You will have us. And thank you so much for everything you brought to the table, bro. And keep kicking ass. Keep doing what you're doing. We look forward to the next thing that you got going for us, brother.
Thank you for having me.
All right, brother. Man. You have yourself a great day. That's our guy, Pranav Sharaman, man. That was awesome. It's always good to have guests on here. Yeah, is it okay? It's always great to have guests on here that can talk about multiple sports. And it's no offense to anybody else, because we know what we're having on. You know, we have guys like Seth Kaiser and people like that. We know that it's here for Chiefs talk.
Yeah.
When we have guys like Pranav and Mark Gunnels and guys like that, we know that they can bring it when it comes to NBA talk. And you and I, we can make a whole other podcast about NBA talk, because you and I, we love the NBA. We can talk about that. And I appreciate Pranav's thoughts on all things NFL, all things NBA. I hope you guys follow him, man. He's got a really good thing going, and we appreciate him, and we thank him for being on the show with us. And we will have him back primarily in the football season as well, because he's got good viewpoints on the Chiefs. And I love hearing his story and stuff, because I honestly didn't even know half that stuff about him being born in OP, you know, growing up out here. He's a native out here, man. That's really cool to see. But something I actually want to dive in briefly before we get to our final segment of the day. I want to talk a little bit about the NBA Finals, Trev, and I know you got a lot of thoughts on this. I'll let you just kick it off, man, because I know that you've been really fuming on the way this went, because you and we picked the Celtics in 6. Yeah. The Celtics ended up losing in 6 to the Warriors. I will say that I left this series very unsatisfied because of the fact that I felt that the Celtics did not bring their best. And I'll credit the Warriors, because I think the Warriors, they practically played 4-on-5 for the majority of this series, with Draymond being total ass for the majority of this series. He got better in Game 6. He played really well. I'll give him that. But he wasn't nearly what Draymond has been over the last 6-7 years. And I think that this is a testament to Steph Curry and to Klay Thompson and Andrew Wiggins, like our guy Pranav brought up. Andrew Wiggins has really cemented himself. He has a legacy now. Guys like Jordan Poole, all these guys, they pulled their own weight. But it's disappointing, because I think that the Celtics left a lot on the table. I don't think they played anywhere near to their capabilities, even with the Warriors being a great dynasty and all those things. They had opportunities. They squandered. Their turnovers were abysmal. I mean, Jason Tatum set the new record for turnovers for a single playoffs. He took that from LeBron James. He has over 100 turnovers in the playoffs. That's by far the most now. And the final game was a testament of all of it. They had 22 turnovers. That's unacceptable in the NBA playoffs and the finals, man. And you work so hard. You guys work so diligently, beating KD and Kyrie to get out of the first round. Then you go and beat Giannis, the defending champions in the semis. And then you go and beat the Heat, a proven team that just got to the finals 2 years ago with Jimmy Butler, who has a Hall of Fame status in the playoffs. You beat them. And then you go to the finals and the biggest stage of it all, and Jason Tatum just shits the bed. They just did not have enough, and it all centers around your superstars. This is why teams build around superstars, because if you don't have that superstar, more likely you don't get to the finals at all, but even if you were, you usually don't win. So it was very disappointing to see. I think the Celtics were the better team. They just didn't play like it, and Steph shined bright and took care of business and got himself his first finals MVP. Salute to him. He has cemented himself as not only the greatest shooter of all time, but a surefire top 12 to 15 player of all time.
Yeah, we could talk about the Steph thing, but the biggest storyline for me in the finals was the shrinkage of the star player that was supposed to be, whoever the star player of the Celtics is, because I don't know who it is at this point. Honestly, I don't know if Jaylen Brown is supposed to be the guy. It was frustrating because I did believe that the Celtics were the younger, faster, more aggressive team. Would up the pace in the series, force the older guys of the Warriors to oblige and try to play to their pace, and they would do that at times. Most of these games were games of runs. There was never like a balanced attack on both sides. It was always the Warriors would go on a 20-7 run, and then the Celtics would go on like a 30-14 run. There was always it was always that. But Jason Tatum shrunk in this series. He had big moments in certain games. Obviously, he had some big games. He'd have little hot streaks here and there, but he would cool off way too quickly. As our guy just alluded to here a minute ago, he was not finishing in the paint. Honestly, not a lot of people not a lot of the players in the Celtics were finishing in the paint. A lot of the attempts there, they were depending on Horford to hit shots. Granted, he was hitting shots. He had big moments in these games too as well, but Marcus Smart had to step up and be a scorer a lot of times more than he probably should have because Tatum was shrinking. I think he had 13 points in the last game. I think he was outscored by Jaylen Brown in this series. Yeah. That's unacceptable, man. Yeah. That is unacceptable. This is a guy who's supposed to become a superstar in this league. He's not there yet. He's just not, and he may not get there. Yeah. Because he's had many opportunities. He's had great players around him. He's had Kyrie Irving alongside him too, taking pressure off him, being the main scorer for the team. And they still can. Obviously, they ran into LeBron James, who just has their number every single time. This is a Celtics team I truly believe that was supposed to be here, and they've proven to be here, and they did belong here in these finals, but it just came down to experience. Once again, this Warriors team, this core was healthy, and when this core is healthy, they are a shoo-in to the finals. It just is what it is. This I can't give more respect than I'm giving right now to this Warriors dynasty. They are up there with all the best dynasties in NBA history at this point. Granted, they have 4 rings. Some of these dynasties have 5, 6. It is what it is. But these guys, for what they've done in this era, the way they've forced the evolution of the game, the way Steve Kerr has coached this team, and just the uniqueness of this core. With Draymond being the facilitator and the elite defender. Clay being arguably the second greatest shooter of all time, with Steph being unquestionably the greatest shooter of all time. I mean, the prowess offensively that these guys have is arguably unmatched in any dynasty. I mean, you had the Spurs, who were very traditional, and they had Manu Ginobili, who had the flair, but they had Timmy D, who was just Mr. Reliable, go get a double-double and get the dub. They were not a boring type of basketball. They were exciting, but they did it in a pretty conventional way, nothing like out of the ordinary. They were just very good at what they did. But and obviously the Bulls being what they were in that time, little less competition at that time in the NBA. Yeah. But for what the Warriors have done and the way they've done it, and I fucking loved Klay Thompson's quote at the end of that when he was dapping up Steph at the end there. So all we do is shoot threes and win championships, because all these fucking old heads have been talking shit about the 3-point shot. And that was the perfect quote. That was my quote of the series. I loved it so much. Klay nailed it. All we do is shoot 3-pointers and win championships, bro. That's the biggest middle finger to all the shit talk that's been going on from all these old heads, these guys I want to shit on, talk about fundamentals of the game. I hate to break it to you guys, but the NBA is exempt from fundamentals. Yep. Tell me when and where the fundamentals were invented for the NBA, because this game has forever evolved over the years. The game is always evolving. Eurostep didn't exist, 20, 50 years ago. All these things can continue.
Dribbling on both hands.
Exactly. All these, the NBA is forever evolving, and if any group of players is responsible for taking this league into the next step of evolution, it's Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and this core and this what these guys have done. We can talk about LeBron James being who he is and the longevity of the game, and he is by far the most impactful player in my mind, and as far as what he's done single-handedly as an individual. But as far as the core players and how Klay and Steph, their shooting prowess has evolved the game and forced defenders to the perimeter, and that creates other opportunities for other players. It's an extremely unique situation that we've been witnessing. I'm glad. Look, man, they have so Steph has as many rings as LeBron does at this point. I've been able to watch both of these guys thrive in the same time frame, pretty much. LeBron's been around obviously longer. He's thrived longer, and has made more trips to the NBA Finals. Times when he probably shouldn't even have been there, carried some teams that shouldn't even have been there, had no business being there. But I'm grateful, man, to be a part of watching this Warriors dynasty. I love Steph Curry, I love Klay Thompson, I love Draymond Green. As far as what these guys do for the team, it's just good basketball. And listen, I was with you. I thought the Celtics were going to win this series in 6. They lost Game 6 at home, and honestly, a kind of a despicable fashion. Jalen, I mean, these guys just didn't do it for me, man, and I really thought that they would step up. I love Udoka. I love him as a coach. I think he's got a bright future. This was year 1.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Already in the finals.
This is what I'm saying. So they can definitely build on this. They have young guys. They need to get healthy. They got Robert Williams, who was never really healthy this series, is one of the best shot blockers in this league, rim protectors in this league. They have a lot of promise. But I've got to see more from the Stars. I've got to see more. I think they may need another piece. They already a deep team, but I just think I think the Warriors, listen, I think the Warriors, and I might have missed this when I made my prediction. I might have changed my mind, but this is obviously hindsight 2020. But I think the Warriors were, after last season when they failed to make the play-in, and Steph said, you don't want to see us next year. I think they had like you've mentioned before, they had a whole lot of bulletin material. Everyone was saying they're never going to win again. Everyone was doubting that they'd ever make the finals again. Steph would never win another ring. That kind of stuff inspires guys like Steph Curry, who are just undeniable. He's an undeniable player. He's an undeniable talent. Klay is the perfect complement to his game because they are so dynamic at shooting the ball. Listen, man, kudos to the Warriors. They're one of the greatest dynasties ever. Who knows if they're done? They might not be done. They might be. They're going to be right back here next year. And if they can find a way to keep Wiggins, and my God, did Wiggins contribute?
Yeah,
this is Wiggins' greatest accomplishment, man. What he did for this Warriors team, how he came in and fulfilled a role that they needed. A guy that's an incredible player on both sides of the court. And 2 or 3 of these games in this series, he was the best player on the floor on both teams. You know what I mean? So he was pushing for, I know people were talking about him pushing for the finals MVP because there was at moments he looked like the most valuable player out there. Even when Steph had a couple slumpy games, he kept them afloat and they got some wins out of that when Steph wasn't even having a great game. So listen, this was great basketball. It was fun to watch. I'm just glad there wasn't like a lot of blowouts like the majority of the postseason was. It was insane how many blowouts there was in this postseason. It was actually kind of boring, to be honest. Like who's gonna blow who out? Like people trading blowouts, and that was kind of become annoying at a point. But this was a good competitive series. Guys were getting chippy. It was good basketball. We could talk about the fundamentals of the game, but the 3-point shooting is fun. It's sexy, and the game has evolved to that. And the Celtics got some more work to do, man. Jason Tatum needs to, if he wants to ever mention his name again with Kobe Bryant, he's going to have to find that killer instinct because it was non-existent in this series. There was a couple moments there it looked like he had that. But he fizzles out far too quick, and he's young. He's young. Early Steph Curry had moments like that too, where he would shrink in big moments, and he needed other guys like Andre Iguodala to go get the Finals MVP. So listen, as a basketball fan, as an NBA fan, I loved this series. Even though I did want to see the Celtics win, I wanted this to be their moment. I was rooting for them. I have nothing but mad respect for the Warriors and what they've done for this game, man. So kudos to them. Kudos to Steph Curry. Happy for you guys.
Well said, man. Well said. We'll talk more about the NBA as the offseason continues because I think there's going to be a lot of fireworks this offseason, a lot of free agents, trades, things of that nature. But we have one more order of business to get to. Trevor, what's it called? Hold This L. Each and every week, we finish off each and every episode with a series of L's in the world of sports. Whether those L's are friendly or unfriendly L's in the world of sports, we promise you, whoever is holding these L's in the world of sports deserve those L's in the world world of sports. Trevor, it's Woodwell who's holding the L for you this week.
So I'm actually going to talk a little baseball right now. I don't talk much baseball at all, but there is a pretty polarizing manager that has been in this league for a while. He's been on a few teams. It goes by the name of Joe Madden. I actually like Joe Madden. I think he's a good soundbite guy. He's kind of, like I said, polarizing guy. He's one of the few guys in baseball that has a good personality. He's kind of an eccentric kind of a cat. But he obviously, everyone knows was previously the manager of the Angels, who's been a massive letdown this year as far as with the talent that they have and the players that they have and the names they have. But they had a 14-game losing streak, which is a record for the Los Angeles Angels. I'm just gonna play this clip real quick here. This was Tim Kurkjian reporting. let me just lay it out real quick then. So Joe Madden, during this 14-game skid, this losing streak, decided he was gonna go cut his hair into a mohawk to somehow, as if that was somehow gonna stir the bunch of the guys in the locker room and maybe create some new, maybe some other guys would follow suit and go mohawk with them. You know, some guys grow mustaches. Baseball's a very, there's a very superstition built into the game.
Yeah.
More than any other sport. So I like this about him, but this is actually what led to his demise. Let me play this real quick. This is Tim Kurkjian. Here, hold on one second. Here we go.
After consecutive loss number 12, Madden got a mohawk haircut to try to awaken his team. But the players never saw it. He was fired.
So, I'm not trying to dance on the grave of Joe Madden here. But he went ahead and tried to do the mohawk thing to inspire his guys in the locker room. But as Tim Kurkjian alluded to, the players never saw it because he was fired before he even have a chance to get into the dugout, into the locker room to even see his guys to try to, try to create some kind of spark. So I just thought that was funny. I didn't want to cause I don't ever talk baseball. And there's a lot of other L's that can have gone out this week, but I just wanted to throw that one out there just for fun because I don't talk baseball. So I figured if I'm going to talk baseball, it might as well be an L, right? So you can't say MLB without an L, right?
Nice.
So Joe Madden, do me a solid favor and
hold this L.
I didn't want to. I'm like, I know the guy's jobless right now, and I know for sure he's going to find another job because he always does. But yeah, I just thought that was just too funny not to talk about, man.
You guys remember the narrative that was going around for the longest time? And I know I've always said that the only people that don't believe LeBron James is the greatest basketball to ever live are people that just hate LeBron James or just overly worship Michael Jordan. Or you're just some delusional Kobe Bryant fan that thinks somehow he was the greatest basketball player ever. Those are the only people that don't believe that LeBron's the greatest ever. Because if you actually just watch basketball and watch it without any true bias, you will see that there's never been anybody that's replicated it. But there was this narrative that was going around when LeBron was going to the finals every single year for almost an entire decade that, well, of course he's going to the finals every year because he plays in the Eastern Conference. The Eastern Conference is so easy. You know, anybody could do what he did, or it just wasn't as impressive, even though only Bill Russell and the 6 Hall of Famers he had in the Celtics teams back in the day were the only others to ever do that, and that was before the modern era of basketball,
right,
where there was only 8 teams in the league. You win one playoff series, you're in the final. So it was much easier for guys like that. So what LeBron did was significant, and it's historic in my eyes. But that's always been a knock on him, is that, oh, well, yeah, it was the Eastern Conference. So, yeah, of course he got there 8 straight years. Yeah. Well, I wanted to read this real quick. So LeBron left the Eastern Conference in 2018, correct, Trevor?
Correct.
Went to the Lakers, correct, in the Western Conference.
Correct.
The very next year, the Raptors, who LeBron owned for several years in the playoffs in a row, made the finals, got Kawhi Leonard, and won the finals because the Warriors obviously were broke down. Clay and KD got hurt. The next season, LeBron's back in the finals, but in the Western Conference with the Lakers, and the Heat, a former team of LeBron's, gets to the finals. The Lakers win with LeBron James. 2021, the Bucks represent the Eastern Conference and beat the Suns in the finals. And then in 2022, we all know, the Celtics represented the East, another team LeBron has dominated for the majority of his career, and kept from the finals, and played the Warriors and ultimately lost. Do you guys see the trend here? The 4 years that LeBron James has been out of the Eastern Conference, a new team has represented the Eastern Conference. What's that tell you? It tells you that the Eastern Conference wasn't actually all that bad. It was the fact that LeBron James was just that great. That's the point I'm trying to make here. Was it the superior conference? No. The Western Conference was the better conference for the majority of LeBron's career. That doesn't take away from what he did, because of the fact that he did that with multiple franchises, with countless starting lineups and countless coaches. That's the thing we got to remember in all this, is that he was the only consistent piece through all of it. It wasn't like he had a Scottie Pippen throughout the entire thing, or a Phil Jackson throughout the entire thing.
And mind you, a lot of these rosters were better than the rosters he was on. These teams he was leading to the finals. So a lot of these teams were similar to that, are making the finals.
The final time he went to the finals in the Eastern Conference was 2018.
Yep.
That team not only had no star player next to him, some of those guys wouldn't make the roster on most other teams. And he took that team to the finals, averaging 34, 9, and 10 on 54% shooting through the playoffs.
Beat those Celtics teams
with
Kyrie,
3 buzzer
and
beaters.
Beat,
three buzzer beaters, and in game one against the Warriors that had 4 Hall of Famers in their prime, and Steve Kerr as their head coach, he went 51, 8, and 8 on 51% shooting and lost. So you guys can make this myth up and continue to try to move the goalposts, but the Eastern Conference is whack myth is a myth.
100%.
That's all it is. So everyone that bought into that and that myth in itself, do me a solid here and hold this L, because it's bullshit.
100%, bro. I mean, if anything doesn't prove, I mean, it's just simple, just optics. Just look at the facts. They're here.
It's good to be back, man. We missed you guys. This was nice to get back in the saddle, man. We wish Eddie would have been here, because, like I said, the World Cup news is just so extravagant, so incredible, so
little over 80 days football. We be back.
Mind-boggling, yeah. It's about, I think it's like 83 days or so. So yeah, we are very excited to get back into the swing of things with the NFL. But man, we got a lot of things to be excited about here in Kansas City. Things are blowing up here, man, and I promise you guys, the Chiefs are going to be just fine. And I can't wait to break down what we think is going to happen this next season. But in the meantime, for Trevor Twidwell, for Pranav Shraman, a great guest. Go follow him, guys. He has some great work. We'll definitely have him back on. And for the great Clay Windler that puts all this together for us on the back end, I am Lance Twidwell. Episode 171 is done, finished and finito. And until we're back here next week, because we will be back here next week for 172, we out of this bitch.
Bye, people.